Good morning to you. It's 6 o'clock on Saturday, the 26th of August. Today, kissed off. Spanish footballers, men and women, refuse to play until their FA boss resigns over that controversial kiss.
RMT members have walked out once again, leaving many of us unable to travel by train during a busy bank holiday weekend.
The biggest search for the Loch Ness monster in 50 years takes place today using drones and hydrophones. But will we find her?
Because she's there somewhere. And we've got Alex from the Met Office with your weather.
A cool start to a fairly cool long weekend. There'll be some sunshine, but there'll also be some heavy showers, especially today. Get your full weekend forecast with me coming up later.
Morning to you. I'm Stephen Dix.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
Are you in a good mood this morning?
Well, I was.
You...
I'm a bit worried now. Why?
No, because here you are. If you want to be in a good mood, there's some tips. This is in the Daily Star this morning.
Yeah.
Though, hilariously, this good news on tips has been done, a survey by Baby Bell.
Oh, the cheese.
The cheese.
Little, yeah.
And eating cheese isn't on the list. Getting a good night's sleep and a blue sky apparently put you in a really good mood.
I think we're in the wrong country for that right now.
Getting a compliment. Oh, here you go. Eating a favourite snack. Oh, that's getting that to make its way in somewhere. A little bit of praise just makes most of us happy, it would seem, and we're happy when our pets are pleased to see us.
Yes. Although not at 3 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning, actually, when my dog seems to think it's time to get up and is impatient for me to get out of bed.
Timmy's the same.
Yeah. Actually,
the same.
Interestingly, talking about dogs, it's International Dogs Day.
Oh.
And although we all think of you as a cat person, because you have been very much until now...
Yes, I am a cat person.
You're going to get the dog quite soon.
On Tuesday.
Yeah.
On Tuesday. And I'm excited, actually. A little bit apprehensive.
Yeah?
Because I've never had a dog before.
Oh, I see, yeah. Well, it will, you know that. It will take over your life.
Yeah,
much more so than a cat.
Yeah, yeah. But, no, we're looking forward to it.
Have you got a picture of him?
Let me put... Well, sort of.
No, we have to get it loaded into the computer system.
We need to load it into the system,
right.
but I can sort of hold... Oh, I can hold it up for you somehow. Hold on.
Right.
But this... can you see that?
Oh, it's beautiful.
But that is one of the 4 boys, and we don't know which boy we're getting.
Oh, right.
So, and we don't get to pick.
You don't?
No, it's chosen for us on the basis of its temperament.
Character. That's what. Now, I wonder what the owners of said doggy at the moment think is going to be a dog that would suit you.
I don't know.
Have you not asked them?
Well...
Have they interviewed you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we've all been and met everybody and...
How fascinating.
So...
Because I had the same thing when I adopted Ellie, my little bichon frise. She was a rescue. And I said to the people at the rescue centre that I'm a first-time dog owner. And so they matched me with the dog. And when I was sitting there waiting for Ellie to come in, another little bichon frise came in, and I said, "Oh, I like him. He's nice." And they said, "No, that one's not for you, because that would not suit you. Wouldn't suit a first-time owner, and it's a very high sort of tension dog. It's a bit neurotic. You need something much calmer. We've chosen the one for you."
You see, it sounds...
And then when Ellie came in, she'd been shaved, you know, as they're doing a rescue. She'd been shaved about a couple of weeks before, and so she looked really ugly, I have to say. And the one that I'd seen previously was really pretty, and I thought, they've given me the Dumbo, but she's gorgeous, of course, absolutely wonderful. And they were dead right. They got the mix right. So it'll be very interesting to see what sort of puppy they give you. Yeah,
it will be, though. I mean, Daniel's very active, and he's had dogs before, so...
Yeah.
So, you know, it's got to build that into the
And while it
well.
looks little and you can hold it like that, it's going to get big, isn't it?
Well, 8 weeks and still going to be like that sort of size.
Yeah.
8 weeks.
It'll be quite big.
And it will be that big very soon.
Will you bring him in? While he's still quite little?
Well, I was thinking when he's big and properly trained, then he'll just sit here quietly during the show. They're so obedient, Ridgebacks.
That's what you think so far. OK, jolly good.
Proper training, otherwise they're too dangerous at that.
Yeah.
At that size, if you don't train them properly.
Well, absolutely they are.
You've got to, just because they're so big, so you've got to train them properly.
So that's your plan, is it? You're going to have the dog sort of under the table?
Yeah.
Is that right? OK, well, we'll see about that. We'll see about that.
Not every show. But we shall see. If I disappear, I'm taking the dog for a
Oh, you'll just go
break.
off? Yeah, OK. Okay. Well, it's International Dogs Day, so we've got to celebrate dogs today.
Oh, yes, and for all those people who want... Because every time we mention the dog, I get tweets saying, oh, what about Timmy? What about... Ridgebacks are very good with puppies, with kittens, with cats. Get
it right.
And we've checked with the breeders, I've checked with the vets who know Timmy really well, and they all say he'll be absolutely fine. Won't be a problem.
Do you think that's going to be the case?
I mean, it'll take him a week or two.
You've been very academic about it so far. You've done your studying and you've done your homework and everything. I just wonder what real life will turn out to be like.
A little bit different, but the key was the vet who knows Timmy really well, saying, no, he will be fine. It'll take him a week or two to get it to adjust, but he'll be fine. Yeah. Because he'll get extra love.
You got any advice for Stephen? gbviews@gbnews.com, please. Yes. Meanwhile, there's a lot to talk about today. There is controversy over the kiss.
Yes, the Spanish Women's World Cup winner, Jenny Hermoso, says in no moment did she consent to be kissed by the country's Football Federation president, Luis Rubiales.
And as a result of all of this, players have announced a boycott over the controversy, men and female players.
Hermoso said she was vulnerable and the victim of an aggression. And as Anne says, the rest of the women's team won't play. And indeed, the men now saying, as Anne said, that they're not comfortable playing either until Rubiales is removed.
Yeah, and there you can see how the Daily Mail is covering it today. We won't kick another ball till this man quits, say Spain's women stars who won the World Cup. And I don't know if you've seen it, that we've got a picture there of the kiss.
And there was an unusual crotch grab.
It's a crotch grab that what's his name? Rodriguez? No,
Rubiales.
Rubiales did, which was really wrong.
Odd.
Well, you say odd. I mean, it's just A, unattractive, and B, not the thing to do. But then when Jenny Hermoso came past him, he grabbed her and kissed her, whether she liked it or not. And she said, I did not like it at all. And he is now saying that he actually did ask her permission. He said, can I have a quick peck? And she said yes. She said that didn't happen. He just grabbed her.
He's made that. I mean, he's put a video out apologising, sort of saying, I have no choice but to apologise, but it was nothing, and it's all been.
That's not a real apology, is it?
It's all been blown out of proportion. No, it's not a real apology in that sense.
Has it been blown out of all proportion? I think that's the big question, isn't it?
Is it just in a moment of hysteria, just a thing, or is it a bit more?
It was on the lips, and he was holding her head, so she had absolutely no choice.
They do look like a couple.
Yeah, but they're not.
Are we being too?
Are we being too sensitive? In a way, I don't know. I think the Spanish female football team has a problem. They feel they're very manipulated by the men who are managing them and coaching them, and I think there's been problems there for a while. They feel that the female football federation, as it is very misogynistic. It's run by men. They don't like their coach.
No, they don't like the coach.
Do they? They don't like him at all. He does things like, apparently, when they're staying places, he insists that they keep their room doors open so he can see if they're sleeping. And when they come back from a shopping spree, he goes through their shopping bags to see what they bought. He's very controlling, apparently.
That doesn't seem.
That's the coach, but this guy is the head of the FA in Spain. Yeah, and they're demanding now that he resign. Yeah, that he's sacked. They want him sacked.
Yeah, the Spanish government actually has started legal action to try to suspend him. So I mean, it is all getting very messy that way. But I have to say, this is from a personal perspective, and I'm a very huggy, kissy person. But I mean, we kiss on the cheek and things on occasion, don't we? I wouldn't ever grab in and kiss you on the lips.
No, I mean that
would seem a little bit.
They don't know each other as well as we know each other. It looked a little bit hostile. Well, it did. She feels it is. Well, and clearly, all of the women in the team are backing her up and think so as well. And now the British Lionesses, the English Lionesses, saying the same thing. She's getting massive support right across football. So they clearly feel there's a big problem here that he's not addressing by pretending to apologise.
Anyway, we'd love your thoughts on that this morning. gbviews@gbnews.com. All sides of the argument, actually. If you just think, oh, well, it's all a storm in the teacup.
The Spanish government are calling it their Me Too moment. But then a lot of people watching might think Me Too went too far.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Anyway, let us know what you think.
Love to hear from you. Now, rail workers across England have walked out again today as part of the long-running dispute over pay. It's a bank holiday weekend, isn't it? More strikes have been planned for next Friday and Saturday as well.
Well, of course, thousands of us travelling to events and festivals today will be affected. Only around half the usual train services are running, and those services will finish much earlier than normal.
Well, joining us now from Stockholm is our travel guru, Simon Calder. And a very good morning to you, Simon. It seems amazing, I suppose, but very inevitable. It's a bank holiday weekend. We all want to go somewhere. And so they're walking out again.
Most definitely. And Anne and Stephen, while it's always a joy to see you, I wish we could talk about something more cheery than rail strikes, which have been going on now for over 14 months in this very long and bitter dispute over pay and working arrangements. If I may just remind you what's at the heart of this, basically the rail unions, the RMT, who are going on strike today, and ASLEF, the train drivers union, are on strike on next Friday, the 1st of September. They say, we worked all the way through COVID. We haven't had a proper pay increase. We want a decent pay rise that takes into account the racing inflation. And furthermore, then we will talk about possibly reforming some of our working practices, but that's going to cost you. You're going to give us an extra percentage for each thing we negotiate away. The train companies, meanwhile, and the government, who ultimately are going to sign off any pay deal, say, you're joking. Rail revenue has collapsed since the COVID pandemic, basically because people aren't commuting in from Winchester and Woking to Waterloo at the same way that they were. We've lost all that season ticket revenue. The only way you can even get a modest pay rise is if you agree to some reforms, which the rail unions see as cuts, and the government and train operators say are very necessary to cut the cost of running the railway. But caught in the middle of this great long route, of course, the passenger. And today, if you're travelling by rail in England, and remember that Transport for Wales and ScotRail are not affected, then it's going to be a messy old day again. But actually, when you say half the trains are running, the train operators say it's slightly more than that. And it's kind of evidence, and that they are looking to have a kind of war of attrition, whereby eventually all the rail workers, having lost thousands of pounds going on strike and not apparently achieving anything, will return to work. Meanwhile, Mick Lynch, General Secretary of the RMT union, says, no, we are solid and we will strike for as long as it takes to win this dispute.
I mean, away from what is happening for passengers today, because they're almost two separate issues in a way. I mean, it's because whether the trains are running or not, people will avoid them, I guess, on a strike day. But in terms of what the RMT is trying to achieve, and there's been all this hoo-ha over inflation, obviously, and understandably, inflation's coming down. Does that not weaken their argument?
Well, they would point out, and I think there is some justification to this, that, look, we simply want to be able to buy what we could buy in 2019. That's the line from Mick Whelan, who's the General Secretary of the Train Drivers Union. They're in a rather different category. The government says, look, you can have a pay rise which is going to take the average wage for a 4-day week without overtime from £60,000 to £65,000 a year. So, they say we just want inflation recognised. The government's offering basically 4% for last year, 4% for this year, contingent on accepting those changes. But for RMT members who are more poorly paid, they say the increase can be anything up to 13%. And they're also saying, look, for goodness sake, RMT, put this to a vote of your members rather than just the National Executive Committee sitting around having a look at it and saying, that's no good. we're going to go on strike again. And meanwhile, of course, and I think you were implying this, Stephen, it's so corrosive for confidence in the railways just at the time when you need to be able to plan journeys. For instance, I've got an important trip, London to Bristol, 3 weeks' time. I bought a coach ticket. Very good value, and I know it's going to run. I haven't got the same certainty over the railways.
Meanwhile, do we just reiterate then to everybody who does want to travel by train today that it's the old advice, isn't it? You just got to check and double check that it's your train that hasn't been affected.
Well, actually, I can paint you very briefly, if I may, Anne, a picture of how things are running. The terrible news is for anybody in Cornwall, there are no trains to, from or within Cornwall. And this is, of course, summer Saturday. Loads of families would normally be coming back on the train from Cornwall to various parts of the kingdom. They can't do that. But if you go across to Greater Anglia region, that's the lines basically from London, Liverpool Street to Ipswich to Norwich to Southend to Stansted Airport, they're running a pretty normal service. And most other operators are sort of halfway between. For instance, if you want to go to from London to Edinburgh, well, there's a train leaving in the next couple of minutes. I think you might not get that one, but there's trains roughly every hour up until 4 o'clock this afternoon. And just in the past few minutes, Southeastern, which runs trains in Kent to London, says the last trains that they're going to be running around about tea time are going to be very busy. So please try and travel earlier if you can.
OK, Simon, good to see you. It looks very nice there in Stockholm. Is that a train station or an airport?
I'm at, very briefly, Stephen, I'm at Stockholm Central Station. And the interesting thing is, of course, this is the heart of Swedish railways. There is no ticket office. That's another part of the whole rail dispute. The government wants to close down most ticket desks. There's no ticket office at all here. You can get one from the newsagent, from tourist information, but everyone just gets them online, which is great if you are online savvy. It's not so good if you need some help.
Yeah, fair point. Simon, thanks very much indeed.
I always find it a bit of a problem in that you get a boarding pass now at the airport and you just get it on your phone. It's a QR code.
Yeah.
But if you've had a long journey and you've been waiting for a long time or something, queuing up, you're really frightened that your mobile phone's going to run out of battery power.
Yeah.
And if it did, and you simply wouldn't have a boarding pass, would you?
No, you can always print it out, I guess.
It always worries me that.
Point.
Got one of those little power banks now, just in case.
Just in case.
You have to carry that around as well.
Yeah. But then you're not likely to lose it in the same way that you could lose a ticket.
No, true.
And you could always prove afterwards that you had it, I guess. I mean, I don't know. It's the way, there are always issues. Whichever way we go, there are always issues, but it's...
But not for Simon. He seems to be able to get around, doesn't he?
He always manages. Stockholm's lovely, so good on him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll be flying somewhere else later on.
Oh, he will. 18 minutes past 6. Now, not long ago, if you remember, we were expecting a bank holiday weekend heat wave. But sadly, hopes have been dashed, and we're now set for thunderstorms.
Yeah, so what's changed? Let's ask weather journalist Nathan Rao, who's here. Morning.
Good morning. I never said heat wave.
No. OK, you didn't.
All right,
I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah, all right. So what is going on? Because we seem to be fluctuating between very nice and very wet.
You know what? I can't bring you sunshine. I can't bring you joy. I can bring you wet weather today and tomorrow and maybe an improvement on Monday. But it's been absolutely fascinating covering the weather in the last month because it is changed by the day. And even the Met Office, someone like me who follows the Met Office every day you've looked at their forecast on YouTube, well, they're saying it's been so difficult to predict, even 2 days in advance, because of so much going on meteorologically around the British Isles. And unfortunately, what that means for us this weekend is it's not a complete washout, but wet, below average temperatures today and tomorrow, and then looking better on Monday when possibly, because it's still a couple of days ahead, but possibly looking better on Monday when high pressure comes in and slightly higher temperatures. But that's about it for the last 5 days of summer.
Oh, Is that officially the last 5 days?
It's the last 5 days of summer, yes.
Well, I've already noticed that it's darker in the mornings and darker in the evenings.
Yeah, yeah, I noticed
and
that
that
this morning.
is so depressing when you feel you haven't had an August.
I know. It's been, I mean, we had the hottest June on record, if you can remember that far back. I seem to have forgotten that. But August has been pretty much up and down, and there's so much going on. I mean, we are looking at the moment this week, or the Met Office is looking at ex-tropical storm Emily in the Atlantic, which is possibly going to interact with our weather systems.
And do what to?
And possibly bring low pressure in, which will mean it'll be a more unsettled picture, or, depending on how it tracks or how it interacts with the jet stream, bring high pressure, which would mean good weather. And they're looking at it now, saying we just have to watch and see what happens. So
is that jet stream still too low?
The jet stream has taken another turn since I last saw you. The jet stream has now fragmented, so it is split into two arms. And this is, again, what's causing the meteorologists problems, because they've got the fragmented jet stream. There's an unusually high level of activity in the tropical Atlantic basin with hurricanes and tropical storms, and these interact with, they don't come to us, but they interact with our weather. And we've got sort of a battle between low pressure and high pressure all over the United Kingdom and around us. And all of this is feeding into this very uncertain picture through the end of August. But it looks like it might be getting better into September.
Oh, well, you say that now.
Yeah, you just said that to put a smile
But I
on
shall
our
deny
face.
that next time I come in if it's a washout.
Apparently, I was told that Spain is very, very, very hot at the moment again.
Yes, yeah, good point, because we were talking about the Cerberus heat wave a few weeks back, the record-breaking heat wave in Spain and across Europe. The heat is returning to Europe this week. France is looking at 40 degrees. I think I've got them down somewhere. Spain is looking at 40 degrees. But that extraordinary heat is back over Europe, and that is high pressure. That is the heat dome that we were talking about a few weeks ago. And we are above the jet stream on that, so we're missing out on that and getting the sort of the more Atlantic regime of weather. So wet walkies for you next week, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it will be.
It will be.
It will be. Yeah, well, I just find it thoroughly depressing. It just seems to have been a year where, I know you said about June, so we've all forgotten about it. It just seems like a year where we've had no summer at all.
I think it's been a pretty average summer, actually. And in the next couple of days, it looks pretty grim if you look at the weather charts, all that rain coming in. Where you do catch some sunshine, I mean, the temperatures they're talking about high teens to low 20s, which isn't bad at this time of year. It's about average, a bit below average the next couple of days, getting better. But in the sunshine, when that cloud breaks and the rain stops. The sunshine is actually quite warm and quite nice. It just depends where you catch it. It's sunshine and showers, but the best day on Monday. Sorry about that.
Okay, yeah.
Oh,
Must do better.
Does that count for the Daily Star's joy story? Yeah, no, that's all right.
No, it doesn't. No, you've ruined
Blue skies, isn't it? We'll be a bit.
Blue skies.
You'll have to get used to having a towel by the back door for the dog's paws. Yeah, they get very, very wet and dirty. That's one of the routines.
You're not helping here.
That's one of the routines you're going to have to get used to when you get your doggy.
Yes, this is true.
It's International Dogs Day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, it's International Dogs Day. Anna says we've just introduced Wilson to Hobson, his new big brother. He's 8 years old, and again, a Labradoodle. Oh, what a gorgeous pair. How lovely.
Absolutely gorgeous. Have you got a dog?
I have my beloved Maltese, Poppy, who I haven't left for a single day since we've had her.
You haven't left?
Nope, I never leave her.
Well, you haven't brought her with you today.
Well, I mean, I don't...
You don't leave her for long.
Blatant lie just there, yes.
Can't believe a word you say.
Caught out red-handed. No, I mean, I never leave her for... Holidays are out, Stephen, you know. I mean, it's complicated taking dogs on holiday now. It used to be really easy with Europe, with the pet passports. We took her once, but I won't leave her. I won't ever leave her with anyone.
Have they all gone now because of Brexit?
You have to do some really complicated procedure now, like get vets to sign off charts and vet rabies injections and tablets and things, whereas previously you just waved the passport. We went to Ireland once with her. But now you'll fall in love, you know, all over you.
Fine.
Yes, you will. You will fall in love.
It's like nothing I've ever known. I just adore my Poppy.
OK. As I say, anything you could feel like celebrating International Dogs Day with us, then please do. You know how, gbviews@gbnews.com.
Anyway, after that thoroughly depressing roundup from Nathan, let's see what Alex has to say about the forecast today.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, I'm Alex Deakin. This is your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. For many, it's a bank holiday, which usually means a fairly mixed picture. There'll be some sunshine, there will be some heavy showers around. Certainly today, the shower clouds will be developing in the next few hours. Many starting the day fine and sunny, but say the showers bubbling up, some heavy ones this afternoon, the chance of a rumble of thunder in places as well. Perhaps not many showers through central Scotland, bit of shelter here, may see longer spells of sunshine. And as I said, elsewhere it will rain all day. There'll be some sunny spells, but you will have to dodge those downpours. And it's never going to be particularly warm, particularly with a brisk breeze across the west coast of Scotland. Through this evening, still quite a few heavy showers around, so if you've got plans, bear that in mind. The showers will tend to fade through the second half of the night. We'll always keep some wet weather across West and North Wales and further showers in northern Scotland. But elsewhere, turning largely dry and clear. Temperatures will dip down into single figures in rural spots, so a fresh start to Sunday. Again, tomorrow, many places will start dry. Good chance you'll wake up to some blue sky, and for many, it'll stay fine through the morning. But the clouds will be bubbling up across central and then eastern parts with some showers developing. A bit dry maybe for western parts of Scotland. Wales not looking too bad through the afternoon before more cloud and rain spill into the northwest later on. And again, on the cool side for most temperatures below average for the time of year.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again. Peter in Bedford. Morning, Peter. Says, Stephen, as a dog lover myself, I wish you all the best with your new pup. I have an Old English Mastiff called Zeus. Good name. And he weighs in at 12 stone.
Heck.
It's a big dog.
That's a big boy, but you have to have him well trained.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, good luck. Maybe needed. It'll be fun. It'll be lovely. It'll be nice to fall in love all over again.
Do stick with us. There's plenty more to come, including, here's an interesting one. Do you take your shoes off when you go in the house? And do you ask visitors to do the same? We'll be discussing that in a moment.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's 6:28, morning to you. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
Now, social media users have been debating whether people should take their shoes off or not before entering someone's home.
Yes, apparently people on the old Facebook, Instagram and TikTok have been asking whether it's OK for people to ask others to remove their shoes when they come into the house. Well, it's your house and do what you like.
What do you do?
No, I don't ask anyone to take the shoes off. I don't take my shoes off at home.
So the same shoes that you've been walking around in, walking the dog in, not knowing quite what you've been treading in, you'll just walk it through your house.
Yes.
It might be nasty germs.
It's the way you put it, though, makes it sound bad. But yeah, it just be,
Even upstairs into the bedrooms.
Yeah.
Doesn't that worry you?
No.
You see, in my day, when I went to school, you used to have outdoor shoes and indoor shoes. And you had to you had to wear these horrible lace-up outdoor shoes. And then when you got into school, or everywhere where you hang your peg, you've got your peg, underneath you'd have your indoor shoes waiting for you.
No,
always used to have to do that.
We didn't have that up north. Well, not in my day.
No, couldn't afford them.
Couldn't afford.
Is that it?
It's no, but you see, now in my brother's house, you see, now they do take the shoes off.
And do they ask you to?
No. And I never do.
But you should, shouldn't you? If you know that they do.
I do feel a bit guilty. There are a few people's houses I go to, Sybil and Neil, if they're watching, morning Sybil and Neil, they always, I notice they take their shoes off and I go in and I don't. And I always think, oh, should I be taking my shoes off?
See, there's an article here.
Me in a minute.
So shoes worn outside can be vectors for all kinds of dirt and microbes. According to the experts, about 1/3 of the matter building up inside your home comes from outside, much of it being tracked in on the soles of our shoes. The scientists have found a high prevalence of microbiological pathogens.
Yeah, but aren't we getting too clean as well? That's the...
Well, clearly not in your house.
Not in my house. But that's why people are developing all these allergies and things, because we're too clean. Anyway, we better talk to an expert about this pressing issue. The germ guy joins us now from Canada, Jason Tetro. Good to see you this morning, Jason. But what's your take on all of this?
Good morning.
Hello.
I will be honest with you. If you were to look at the microbiological quality of a shoe, the majority of microbes that you're going to find are inside the shoe, not on the outside.
Oh, really?
So Yes. Well, think about this. When you're trudging around, you might have thousands, maybe tens of thousands of microbes. On just a small little area of your hand, you could have potentially hundreds of thousands to millions of bacteria. And remember, the majority of pathogens that are out there aren't coming from the ground or the soil. They're coming from other humans and possibly even animals. So when you look at it from that perspective, what part of the shoe would you rather have in your home? The part that is really not going to have any kind of pathogens on it, or the one that could possibly have more pathogens? It really comes down to sort of an analysis of what you think is the highest risk.
So you're sort of spreading more germs then if you take your shoes off?
You could potentially be spreading a lot more germs, and they're human germs. And this goes to what you were talking about just a second ago, because when we want to talk about diversity and getting more exposure to other types of microorganisms, we don't want to expose to human ones. We want to expose to environmental ones, like dirt. We used to always joke around that we'd let the kids eat the dirt. Apparently we can't say that anymore. But anyways, that's the type of thing that we're thinking about. So the idea of having a little bit of dirt in the house, isn't that really big of a deal? It's more of an aesthetic or a cleaning issue. And, you know, I've done this in hospitals where I've talked to people, even at the NHS, you know, how clean should floors be? Should we really be sweeping after everybody who walks in after a big storm? Or should be more concerned about the fact that those pathogens are in areas where, you know, people might actually pick them up?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that worries me is that carpets, for instance, or rugs, you can imagine them, when germs get in there, even if you vacuum, when germs get in there, they stay there. And in average homes, I mean, you've got children playing on the rugs. I just wonder whether they should, really.
I think that's a great point, but also remember, when you're looking at a rug or a carpet, there's all sorts of surface area and everything. And unless maybe a baby would do this, but unless they're getting their mouth in there, okay, the biggest rule of microbiology is do not lick, okay? So that's the first thing you have to think about. Is this surface something we're going to lick? And believe it or not, in infection prevention control, that is something that we actually say. What is the likelihood of someone actually licking a floor? Very low. But in the home, your carpet may actually end up getting licked, but the surface area that's going to be trapping in those microbes probably are going to hold those microbes, so you're not going to have that kind of exposure. And again, if you're trudging around from the outside, there's a very low likelihood that there's pathogens. I will say this, though, if you happen to be in a dog park, you might want to check your shoes before you walk inside.
Yeah. So the bottom line seems to be we're all worrying too much.
What we're doing is we're replacing cleanliness for microbiological safety. And I get it. You know, etiquette, safety in terms of being clean, giving people that impression that you have a clean home, that's totally understandable. But if you're looking at it from a microbiological perspective, you want more diversity in that area. And the best way to do that is to just invite the germs from outside on the inside. And not from your feet.
And don't buy cream-coloured carpets.
Yes, a fair
good
point.
to talk. Thanks very much indeed. I got a friend who did that when she was expecting her first baby. She had this nursery absolutely beautifully done out, and she had a very light lemon-coloured carpet. It lasted about 3 weeks, honestly, before it looked awful because it picked up absolutely every little bit.
It would do.
You know, it just picked up everything and became impossible to clean. Yeah. So,
But there you go. So has Jason changed your mind?
No.
No.
Well, no, because it's not just about microbiological stuff.
It's just general cleanliness.
It's just not, and I quite like just putting, you know, those little cheap hotel slippers.
Yes.
Just slipping those on instead. They're nicer. But I have got underfloor heating, so it's quite nice to feel the heat under your feet. What do you do? Love to know.
But it's a bit like, I'll tell you what, it's a bit like, you know, we all went through, or a lot of us went through the idea of using that gel all the time during COVID. And a lot of people still do that.
I do.
And but that is sort of really bad for you because it's killing all these microbes that you actually need to get and be exposed to.
Really?
Germs aren't bad in that way.
No, I know, but there's nothing wrong with being just a little careful, isn't there?
You can be too clean.
OK.
Apparently.
Thank you. How kind.
Apparently. You are too clean, Miss Diamond. Too clean. Anyway, let us know what you think on that one. gbviews@gbnews.com. We've got more coming up for you, including all the news and views in today's newspapers.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne. Good morning to you. It is 6:38.
Should we take a look at today's newspapers? Well, America's Most Wanted, The Sun, has Donald Trump's historic mugshot. but saying his support is at an all-time high.
The male has killed in his home by a gang of dog nappers. It's a horrifying story of a father of 3 found dead after an attempt to steal his Labradoodle.
And then the British Museum boss steps down over thefts scandal, leads The Guardian, after Hartwig Fischer accepted responsibility for failures to respond to warnings.
And The Times says that a weight loss drug holds the key to a cure for heart failure. It's a breakthrough, they hope, for millions of sufferers across the UK. Well, across the world, actually, if this proves to be true.
That effective.
Let's talk to the assistant editor of The Spectator, Cindy Yu, and deputy editor of Spiked, Fraser Myers, who are here. Good to see you both this morning.
Morning.
Let's have a look at Trump. Anyone else, it would be a kick. For him, having his mugshot taken could well be a big money spinner.
I mean, he's just incredible at this PR stuff, isn't he? I mean, he went in there, he clearly knew exactly what pose he wanted to do, this kind of glare into the camera, which his supporters see as defiant, but other people see as rather sinister. And now he's spun that off, you know, it's on his website, it's on his social media accounts, he's back on Twitter, but he's also spinning it off into merchandise. You can get a mugshot mugshot mug and a mugshot T-shirt as well on his website. So he's clearly thinking that this is a massive boon for him. And I think, as you say, Stephen, anyone else would think that this is totally embarrassing or shameful, but he's
It's a lesson in public relations, isn't it?
Absolutely. And to be fair, you know, I think he is a very divisive character, but taking a step back, this is a really good PR move for him. This is a very, very good PR move for him.
He must have rehearsed that look in front of the bedroom mirror, mustn't he?
What I'm confused about is mugshots normally are taken from a very unflattering down-below angle. Why have they allowed him to do this random kind of almost GQ-like editorial angle going on? But yeah, he's totally spun it to his own advantage.
Wow. Talk about dealing with it head-on.
Literally, yeah.
Literally, yeah. But, yeah, if it works.
It bolsters his whole message as well, because his message is that I'm being persecuted, the Democrats are corrupt, you know, there's a sort of... the justice system has been corrupted by the Biden administration. So he's able to sort of play on that. And as, you know, as the Sun suggested, his support is going up. Every time he's arrested, every time he's indicted, he goes up again in the polls. Perhaps that's just because he's now the centre of attention again. You know, it means that it's basically...
he's facing something like, I don't know, it's about 30 indictments or something, isn't it?
Yeah, more than that. I think around 90 charges amongst 4 different cases.
I think the potential for 700 years in prison, if you add them all up together.
But the more they throw at him, don't you feel it almost does start to look like a persecution, doesn't it?
Yes, the marginal utility of every single new case, I think, falls because the public lose interest. You know, unless you're a die-hard Trump supporter or die-hard person who hates Trump, the usual public just kind of lose interest because you lose track of the charges. And so, you know, the big question is, what do these ordinary voters, these swing voters, think next year?
So what I was wondering about this, I was talking to my dad about this actually last night, because in the US, the presidential elections, I mean, it is literally 50-50 every year, isn't it? 52-48 or something along those margins.
Very narrow.
So it must be a very small number of people who are actually swayed by anything.
Yes, I think that's right. And so, you know, it really calls into question how constitutional something like first past the post in the system really kind of works, because that big minority of people always feel unheard.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't help the divisiveness.
But if he is ever jailed, there'll be riots, won't there?
If he's put in jail?
If he ever is jailed?
I don't even know. I mean, who can tell with this man?
Even if the National Guard's going to have to be brought out or something.
Yeah, I honestly cannot predict the Trump show.
No. Extraordinary.
Fraser, tell us about the Mail's lead, which is this terrible story of a man who... He rang the police, didn't he? Thinking that his dog was about to be kidnapped.
This is a real tragedy. It's a father of 3 in Manchester, killed in his own home, as what looks to be a dog napping situation, because they found his Labradoodle around 50 yards down the road. Several minutes later, the criminal gang who'd stolen it had taken it for to have a sort of what do you call it, a makeover or pampering.
Yes. clipping or whatever.
And this is part of there's been a big rise in dog napping and crimes to do with pets. Around 8 dogs are stolen per day. And the sad truth is that most people get away with it. About 98% of these cases go completely uncharged. So there's clearly a serious problem.
But I gather that he'd rung the police, we think anyway, to say, I think people are trying to steal my dog.
Yeah.
And when the police got there in the end, or I think the line went dead, something like that, and when they got there, they found him dead.
Yeah, it's absolutely horrific. And he was known, you know, the papers give like lots of witness interviews. He was known, his dog was very well known in the area, so it was obviously a very sought-after dog. It's interesting, is even though it's only worth around £1,000, so that's, you know, small fry for a criminal, extraordinary thing to kill someone over. But clearly, you know, there is a lot of money to be made if you're stealing multiple dogs, I guess.
Yeah. And he must have put up a fine.
And he must have put up a fine, exactly.
It's terrible. Terrible thing. I don't know how you clamp down on that. Well, I suppose it's where you buy your dogs from, isn't it? You need to be careful. I have to say ours is chipped and tattooed.
Tattooed?
Tattooed. They tattoo a code in the ear.
Oh.
Wow.
So
Does that hurt the dog?
Well, it'll... not much. I mean, it doesn't hurt to get a tattoo.
Or just have a mutt.
We don't know. I've got plenty.
Just have a mutt.
A
No
mutt.
value at all.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But I think what's terrifying about this story is that it could happen to anyone.
Yeah.
You know, any dog
Yeah.
owner, as Fraser says, the dog is not exactly super valuable. You know, some dogs these days go for multiple thousands of pounds. So the fact that a home invasion, a burglary, can turn so awry, you know, that's terrifying.
It's terrible.
Talking about value...
Yes!
The Guardian looking at Hartwig Fischer, who's the unusually named boss of the British Museum.
Yeah.
I mean, and it turns out with his thefts of stuff worth millions of pounds, that he was told a long time ago that it was all popping up on eBay.
Yeah, so he was told 2 years ago. It was only announced last week by George Osborne, but the director was told 2 years ago after an art dealer spotted something that he thought should have belonged to the British Museum, alerted the museum, and the museum instead told him, nothing to see here, everything's accounted for. Now, the museum says that the small number of things that they were talking about were accounted for, but it's difficult to see how that can be, you know, how that can be accurate when the arts dealer saw one item on eBay. And I think the fundamental problem is that so many of these items have been sitting in storage for literally hundreds of years and have never been properly categorised. So when something goes missing, it's very hard to tell when it does. And what's intriguing about this case is that the curator who has stepped down, allegedly involved with this case, on some of the items on eBay were being sold for about £40. When these are priceless goods. So the question is, what was the motivation? Was it to get these items to see the sunlight again? Or was it to make a profit? Because it didn't seem like he was selling them for a profit.
Yes, if he did it.
Exactly, yeah,
I mean,
quite.
he's
We
denied
should say it's not the director. The director is only stepping down because he should have been alerted.
Well, by the sound of it, yes.
Yeah.
Either he should have known or he was protecting his reputation and the
Yeah,
reputation
or they should have done a more specific...
Rather than investigating properly.
Exactly.
He was very rude about the man who had alerted him to it as well. You know, and then he accused him of withholding information and things like that. So he's had to apologise to this person.
But don't you think it's incredible as well? But the reason that there's always been controversy over the British Museum having certain objects like the Elgin marbles or goodness knows what, is that they say, we don't want to give them back to these countries because they don't know how to look after things like we do.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid, here in this case...
That is precisely what the Greek government is now saying.
Yeah,
you know, especially because the man who is alleged to have sold on these items was quickly put in charge of a lot of the Greek antiquities.
He was the expert.
He was the expert, yeah. I mean, there's one head I'd like to see roll in this, and that's George Osborne, the chair of the British Museum. I still don't understand why he was ever made
Yes, he's chairman of the Board of Trustees.
Yeah, that and 6 other jobs in which he has no expertise or no knowledge. It's very strange. And
it is.
Yeah.
Mind you, I tell you what, every cloud has a silver lining. Because for years to come now, the Antiques Roadshow is going to be fascinating.
Right.
Where did you buy? Well, I bought this off eBay for £40. I think it's worth £13.5 million.
No, that would be a really positive outcome from this if you can return those goods. But what the fear is that some of them have been smelted down. You know, some of them have been kind of destroyed from their original form so that you can never return them to what they were like when the British Museum had them. So some of these are just lost, really.
Yeah. Oh, dear. Now, Fraser, what's this in the Telegraph about the energy price cap? They're calling it a blunt instrument.
Yeah, well,
it is.
It is, obviously. So the price cap is coming down. A lot of people's bills will come down. Not everyone's, because the government's support is also coming down. So some people will end up paying more. The head of Ofgem is also warning that the energy crisis is by no means over. So the price cap could come down during the summer, during the autumn, and then go back up again in January if we have a particularly tough winter. So essentially, I think the underlying story here is that even though we've been worried about the energy crisis for over a year, the government really hasn't got a grip on the fundamentals. We can tinker around with tariffs and things like that, but our energy supplies are not secure. We're still, paying over the odds, having to pay for gas from abroad and things like that. So, yeah, we're in trouble.
Oh, yeah, well, there you go. Why is it... Everything seems to be a blunt instrument at the moment. Interest rates are a very blunt instrument, and a lot of people arguing they're not working at all. Everything's really blunt. Why can't we be a bit more focused on how we deal with these things?
I think the problem is that the world is much more volatile now than it was when these blunt instruments were put in place. So the energy price cap arguably made sense before the war in Ukraine, because energy prices didn't change that much. And so it actually meant that consumers were able to be protected and not have too much rising energy costs. But now energy costs are going up and going down. The 3-month updating is just not quick enough to be flexible to give energy users the savings that they need, whilst at the same time, making some smaller energy companies go out of business because they can't pass on the higher costs either when the costs rise higher. So I think basically that what we're seeing is a lag effect. As Fraser says, the government is not reacting fast enough through legislation, and even Ofgem is calling for this to change, but they cannot change it themselves. It has to be the politicians who change it by legislation.
Right.
That'll take an inquiry that'll last months and years.
Yeah, nothing will happen quickly.
OK, have we got time for another one?
Yes, we have, yeah.
Cindy, you were looking at the FT and about mental illness at work.
Yeah, and speaking of the government not working fast enough, since COVID, we have had millions of people being out of work. 2.6 million cite illness, long-term sickness, as their reason for being out of work. And over half of those have mental health problems as their sickness, or as part of their sickness. And so the government in its autumn budget is going to try to tackle that through different incentive schemes. I mean, the FT article is quite light on details of exactly how that's going to happen. So I suspect this is just, what's it called, kite trailing, is it? Just to see whether or not people will be interested in this idea. But clearly,
it's a heck of a lot of people, though, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. And it estimates that we're losing around £16 billion a year through lost tax revenues and through extra welfare spending because of these people who are not in work, even though they could be if they were able to get their sickness, whether physical or mental, seen to.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it?
It's the old argument, isn't it?
But then it always reminds me of there's been this big push, hasn't there, to get the over 50s back into it, those who pulled back from working during COVID and said, well, I don't think we need to do it anymore. And they're trying to get those people back into it. And I sort of think, well, why bother if they've decided they don't want to work and they can afford not to?
If they can afford to retire, you'd think let them retire. I mean, the long-term sickness issue is a real tragedy, especially if you think about... I mean, some of these people, it's complicated because their mental health problems are caused by other sicknesses that then compound themselves. But we used to recognise that actually, not working was a leading driver of mental health problems.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than people being, yourself, for being idle and being out of work. You think that it's like we've kind of got things the wrong way around. Some of these people need to go back to work to feel better.
Even the CEO of Zoom was yesterday saying to his workforce, come back into work. I mean, which is extraordinary. But he said it's much healthier for you to be in work than on a Zoom.
Absolutely. People need to have a sense of purpose. People need to be around other people. We're social animals.
I'll tell you what we need to do, because we keep saying we need to get more people back into work. Why aren't we focusing on people with a disability? There's lots of people with I know some people are off because of their disability. There's loads of people who are disabled, and often those who were born disabled, who really want to get into work, but they can't find the opportunities.
Yeah, workplaces being inaccessible, not having that kind of human... I mean...
I know it takes a bit of extra work.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a friend who's very severe cerebral palsy, and he does have issues communicating, but you can learn to understand what he's saying. I've never known anyone. He's bright as a button.
Yeah.
He's so bright. And he needs to be working. He's got so many
We're
good
missing
ideas.
out.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a tougher question. That's a tougher problem for the government to deal with. And this government is clearly not good at dealing with the smaller problems, let alone the tougher ones. But yes, absolutely, Stephen. And then when it comes to the sickness, you know, it is just about... Mel Stride recently, I don't know if you saw the Work and Pension Secretary said that over 50s should get on their bikes and go Deliveroo if it gets them back to work so flexibly. And then lots of people are saying, well, I don't want to do that when I'm over 50.
That's the last job I'd really want.
Yeah, exactly. But we do have a records jobs vacancy shortage in this country. So either we get more people to work or we get more immigration going. But it doesn't seem like some people want either of those things.
We'll make working more attractive.
We've only got a minute left. What do you think, just about this Luis Rubiales
about the kiss.
Spanish kiss situation? Because Graham says, I think it was over-exuberant at a very emotional time, but if he'd apologised properly, it would have calmed down. Paul says, I back the women on this. You see male players kiss after a goal, but this kiss was out of context and looked forced to me. He should resign. What do you think?
I have to say, I'm not normally a football watcher, and also I don't know about the Spanish culture, but it does seem bizarre to have an exuberant kiss on the mouth in a professional setting.
Yeah.
You might go for a hug.
I think it's fine to let your passions take you away, but you do also have to then say, you know, sorry, I got that wrong, and he's
refusing.
Probably a bit too defiant, especially after she's come out and said, I didn't want this.
Of what sort of man he is by the fact that he also did a crotch grab when they won. I mean, it was really inappropriate, especially as he was about 3 people away from the Queen of Spain. But not nice, not a nice man, I don't think.
Well, anyway, Cindy, Fraser, thank you very much indeed. Let's have a look at the weather with Alex.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, I'm Alex Deakin. This is your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. For many, it's a bank holiday, which usually means a fairly mixed picture. There'll be some sunshine, there will be some heavy showers around. Certainly today, the shower clouds will be developing in the next few hours. Many starting the day fine and sunny, but I say the showers bubbling up, some heavy ones this afternoon, the chance of a rumble of thunder in places as well. Perhaps not many showers through central Scotland, bit of shelter here, may see longer spells of sunshine. And as I said, elsewhere it will rain all day. There'll be some sunny spells, but you will have to dodge those downpours, and it's never going to be particularly warm, particularly with a brisk breeze across the west coast of Scotland. Through this evening, still quite a few heavy showers around, so if you've got plans, bear that in mind. The showers will tend to fade through the second half of the night. We'll always keep some wet weather across West and North Wales and further showers in northern Scotland. But elsewhere, turning largely dry and clear. Temperature will dip down into single figures in rural spots, so a fresh start to Sunday. Again, tomorrow, many places will start dry. Good chance you'll wake up to some blue sky, and for many, it'll stay fine through the morning. But the clouds will be bubbling up across central and then eastern parts with some showers developing. A bit dry maybe for western parts of Scotland. Wales not looking too bad through the afternoon before more cloud and rain spill into the northwest later on. And again, on the cool side for most temperatures below average for the time of year.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's International Dogs Day today, and the message seems to be coming through to you that one isn't enough.
One isn't enough. Oh, no, it is enough.
You'll be wanting another very soon, apparently, according to nearly everybody watching this morning.
Yeah, apart from Mark, who says, don't bother, too messy in tying, your life will be ruined. Don't believe that, Mark.
No, that's not true.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning to you. It is 7 o'clock on Saturday, the 26th of August. Today, kissed off. Spanish footballers, men and women, refuse to play until their FA boss resigns over that controversial World Cup kiss.
RMT members have walked out once again, leaving many of us unable to travel by train during a busy bank holiday weekend.
The biggest search for the Loch Ness monster in 50 years takes place today using drones and hydrophones, but will we find her?
And Alex from the Met Office has your weather.
A cool start to a fairly cool long weekend. There'll be some sunshine, but there'll also be some heavy showers, especially today. Get your full weekend forecast with me coming up later.
Morning to you, I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
Let's kick off with some International Dog Day pictures, should we? Because it is International Dog Day, so it's nice to celebrate our furry friends. The Baileys from the Midlands have been in touch. They say, enjoy your puppy, Stephen, but bear in mind, one is never enough. 1, 2, 3, 4 little...
Are they Dachshunds or are they puppies of some other breed?
I don't know, I sort of say.
But 4 of them. Gosh, busy house.
Gorgeous little things.
And then we've got David and Leslie who've been in touch from Norwich. And they say, this is Alfie, our gorgeous blue Merle Collie Husky Cross. And that's him celebrating International Dogs Day.
Beautiful. Danny says this is our little Sprocker Spaniel.
I've never heard of a Sprocker.
No, I don't think
he's very
never heard of
cute.
him.
He likes his
He's
cushion.
9 months old on Tuesday.
And Christine says, do say hello to Mr. Pickle and Gibson, 2 little Papillon brothers. Wow, there's a lot of fluff to get on your carpet. Wonder if they molt. Or maybe they're the sort of breed that doesn't.
They're
Absolutely beautiful.
Things.
Thank you so much, though, for those pictures, because, as we were saying, it's International Dogs Day. I'm not sure how you're meant to celebrate it, but that's how we're celebrating it.
No, because it was International Cats Day the other week. We missed that
We
one.
did. That was a couple of weeks ago.
So,
see, already.
Yeah, see, I don't know what you meant to do, though.
Good morning to Timmy.
Yes,
Just
morning,
in case
Timmy.
he's watching.
Yeah, well, he's actually, I tell you what, he's out. I let him out at 3 o'clock this morning. So he's out prowling the streets of...
Well, that's what he should be doing, I suppose.
So, yeah, there's plenty of woods near us, so he'll be having a little scout around.
Now, are we being snowflakey and overreactionary when we talk about the kiss?
Yes, the Women's World Cup and Luis...
yeah, we keep forgetting his name, don't we? He is Luis...
I forgot. Rubiales.
Rubiales, yes.
Rubiales.
Who is the sort of head of the Spanish FA, isn't he?
Yes.
Should he hold on to his job? He's determined to at the moment.
He kissed her on the lips, right? Moment of celebration, he says. But the woman he was kissing, Jenny Hermoso, says in no moment did she consent to that kiss, and she's very uncomfortable about it.
Yeah, and as you can see, we're showing you there the front page of the Daily Mail. We won't kick another ball till this man quits, say Spain's women stars, who won the World Cup. But as you were saying, it's not just the women saying it, and it's not just the Spaniards saying it now. Everybody seems to be joining in. The English Lionesses say it was completely inappropriate, misogynistic, sexist, and really wrong for him to think it's OK. There we've got a statement from the Lionesses saying it's unacceptable actions allowed to happen by a sexist and patriarchal organisation. Abuse is abuse, and we have all seen the truth. The behaviour of those who think they're invincible must not be tolerated, and people shouldn't need convincing to take action against any form of harassment. We all stand with you. Gosh, that's a strong statement.
It is. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, Denise in Bedfordshire has been in touch. She said the kiss was done in a moment of proudness for the Spanish ladies team. They'd won.
Yes, but you don't be proud in that way.
And Anne says it was a moment of joy and celebration for the Spaniards, but not for that player. She says she feels that it was she was, you know, a victim of this.
Violated, yeah.
And Nace says the problem was with the Spanish. The problem there with the Spanish players and the managerial team there was all these issues before this incident happened. What Rubiales has done is highly unprofessional, but I don't think it was sexual assault. I wouldn't have said it was sexual assault, but it was hugely inappropriate.
It's kissing without consent. He's grabbed her and kissed her. She didn't have. I mean, if you look at it, it's just not on. It's totally unprofessional, and she says it was against her will. She did not consent, and he's issued a very mealy-mouthed apology video, hasn't he?
He has, and he sort of said, you know, I have no choice but to apologise. Which says it all.
Which is not an apology, is it?
It's not.
And I think the other thing about it is that apparently they have got problems in the Spanish, particularly in the Spanish female team. They feel they are controlled too much by particularly their coach, who they don't like at all, male coach. And as I was saying earlier, there are stories that, for instance, when they are staying away somewhere, he insists they leave their doors open so that he can see whether or not they really are asleep when they say they're going to bed.
I mean, that's
controlling and creepy, yeah. And when they go shopping, he looks through their shopping bags to see what they've bought. He is that controlling. And apparently, at the end of the World Cup game, if you watch it, the final, he, like everybody, he sort of ran onto the pitch, and all of the women turned their back on him. He was not welcomed onto the pitch. So they've got problems anyway with what they perceive as controlling bosses and misogyny. And now it's surfaced in this way. And they obviously feel... I mean, I wonder who'll win. If they're saying, we won't play again until he goes...
Well, they'll win.
Do you think?
I mean, yeah, there's no other way. If they won't play... And, in fact, the Spanish government has started legal action to try to suspend him.
It's gone that high up the food chain.
Yeah, so the government want him gone, the players want him gone. It's just whether you think it's too much. I have to say, it looks and I'm not snowflakey with this sort. I'm really not. I think a lot of what is claimed as being, you know, sort of abuse and all that is sometimes just people trying to take advantage of a situation. I think there's got to be a leeway, there's got to be an understanding, but that, to me, just looks really uncomfortable.
It does, yes. And it was done on the world stage, for heaven's sake. If he thought that was appropriate... He also did this crotch grab when I think they won the final goal, and that's completely unacceptable and horrible to look at. If he's that kind of man, I can understand the women not wanting him in charge.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at... I didn't see any of this. I did, but looking at pictures online of the crotch grab, it just looks weird.
It's thuggish. It's thuggish, isn't it? He should know better.
It's very, very odd. And at the end of the day, this lady, who's 31 or something, this player...
Jenny.
Jenny Amoso. And she's saying she's very uncomfortable with it. Well, he shouldn't have done it then, should he?
No.
Really? He shouldn't have done it.
And at the very least, he should have issued a proper apology. But it won't save him now, will it? I don't think.
No.
Because he's very clear he's not going to go willingly.
No, he said in a press conference, and he sort of seemed to be indicating yesterday morning he would resign. But then by the time there was a news conference, he said, I will not resign 4 or 5 times. So there's going to be a bit of a fight on.
Isn't it terrible that their team did so well? They won the World Cup, for heaven's sake, and that this is what we're talking about because of his completely disgusting behaviour. Do let us know what you think, won't you? gbviews@gbnews.com.
And let us know what you think about this as well, because rail workers across England have walked out again today as part of that long-running dispute over pay, more than a year now, and more strikes have been planned for Friday and Saturday as well.
And of course, thousands travelling to events and festivals today will be affected, as only around half the usual train services are going to run, and they will finish much earlier than usual.
Oh, so it's a familiar story, isn't it? Let's head to our West Midlands reporter, Jack Carson, who's in Birmingham for us this morning. Hi, Jack. I mean, it is so familiar and, frankly, so miserable for those travellers affected by this.
Yeah, that's right. It's the 24th RMT rail strike since last summer today. 20,000 of their members across the network are going on strike today. And it is, you're right, causing disruption because it's not only just a bank holiday weekend this weekend, but you've also got massive events across the country. For example, Notting Hill Carnival down in London, as well as the Reading and Leeds Festival as well. And on a much reduced transport network, of course, there's going to be a lot of disruption, a lot of busy trains that are running. For example, here at Birmingham New Street today, on the majority of the services, only one train per hour is running. You spread that out across the country, and you can very quickly see how this disruption starts to spread. But of course, Mick Lynch at the RMT says there is a very good reason why they're striking on Saturday, because they know that's the network's busiest day. And while they're not out to necessarily disrupt passengers, because many passengers across the country are on their side, they know that if they want to get the deal that they prefer and the deal that they want for their members, they're going to have to cause disruption on the network. Of course, in spring, we got the news that the Network Rail members had accepted their deal from the rail delivery group, that 9% pay rise over 2 years, 5% backdated for 2022, 4% for this year. And of course, we all thought that might well start the other members from other train operating companies starting to accept deals as well. But of course, the RMT has not put the offer of the rail delivery group to their members. They say it's not good enough, and it would be wrong to put it to them because it's not going to pass anyway. So of course, it's not just pay, it's working conditions as well, and that's where it gets a little bit more intricate with the train operating companies, because for each of the different operating companies, there's different rules on working hours, overtime, for example, which all has to be factored into a deal, making things a little bit more difficult. But of course, the Transport Focus, who is an independent passenger watchdog, of course, has said that the consultation on the plans for, of course, closing ticket offices, which is another thing that unions are now angered over, has reached 460,000 people have contributed to that consultation. So it's not just the strike that the RMT, of course, are very unhappy about. It's also the plans to close ticket offices in England as well. So with their anger and, of course, no negotiation currently going on a better and more improved deal, these strikes look like they are set to continue for some time.
OK, Jack, thanks very much indeed.
I can't believe it when you said they've already been going for a year.
Yeah, 14 months or something.
Believe it.
And just making no headway. And I just sort of think, are they just losing the argument now, or are they going to have to give in to them at some point?
Don't you feel that if you've been on strike for a year, I mean, I know it's not been continuous, then something's not working. It's not working. But we've put it to them before, haven't we?
Yeah, well, we have. I think part of the issue is we got used to not travelling on trains. The figures are well down. So there's an argument saying, well, the money isn't there to fund this sort of pay rise. But, you know, there's a lot of people still working from home and all the rest of it, so... I don't know. The problem is, I think, for the strikers and the unions, is that we've just sort of reached a point where we go, oh, it's a strike day, we'll work around it.
Yes, yes. And also, I think maybe because we know we can work from home nowadays, we know how to, technically, then that's what you do on a strike day.
Which doesn't help their cause.
No, it doesn't.
If you agree with what
I think strike, yes, exactly. Things are different, aren't they now? Right, shall we bring you up to date with the rest of today's top stories? And official merchandise with the mugshot of Donald Trump has gone on sale after the former president was arrested at a jail in Atlanta, in Georgia. And the photo, distributed by Fulton County Court, is now being used by opponents and supporters alike. Yesterday, Mr. Trump posted the mugshot himself on X, formerly known as Twitter, which was his first post on that platform in over 2.5 years. And it's had 216 million views.
Hundreds of protesters have gathered outside the French military base in Niger, threatening to storm the facilities if troops don't leave the country within a week. The military junta that took power a month ago also ordered the French ambassador to leave, putting the West African nation in league with neighbouring Burkina Faso and Mali, who've also had anti-Western coups. The development will now add concerns to European capitals over the pro-Russian leanings of Niger's new regime, as the country is one of the world's biggest producers of uranium for nuclear energy.
And the Lib Dems are calling for a public toilet fund as numbers drop by 14% in 5 years, apparently. The party is rallying for a dedicated fund for public toilets across England after their Freedom of Information request showed that dozens of public loos have been shut down. A Lib Dem spokesperson said people deserve better basic facilities, with the government saying they expect councils to provide public toilets for their communities. I wonder if that's important. Do you think? I mean,
Public toilets?
Yeah.
Yes.
I
think so.
But they've got to be of a certain standard or nobody will use them.
Well, yeah,
I mean, a
they've got
lot
to
of
be
public
clean.
loos have been shut down because they were just so disgusting.
There were a lot of disgusting ones back in the day, but you do need need a public toilet if you're just desperate, and especially, and I hate to say it, but as you get older, and you often. And I think it's more with ladies, isn't it, where you get desperate and you just have to go quickly.
Don't know.
Oh, yeah, it's a thing. Look forward to that, Anne.
Oh, thank you very much.
But it's all to do with pelvic floor and things.
Oh, I
isn't it?
see.
Why I know all about this,
No,
I
don't
do not know.
I never thought we'd be talking like this at 7:15
but it is that
on
thing.
a Saturday morning.
Like now, so if I
Hello, you're on television.
If I need to go, I'm going really hyper at the minute, so I'm just fading in and out. So bear with me. But if you need to go now, I mean, I can just sort of think, I'll have to go in the next 20 minutes or whatever. But there are, for a lot of people, if you need to go, you need to go.
Yeah, but you wouldn't want to go into some horrible ones. I just think maybe
and you shouldn't have to pay for it.
Well,
if you have to find 20p, no one's got 20p pieces anymore.
Yeah.
You just have to go.
A lot of people just pop into a shop or something, and places like McDonald's are getting very, very fed up with people just using them for their loos.
Yeah, understandably.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Anyway,
let us go.
We better move into International Dog Day before I collapse off this stool.
All right.
If Chloe, our floor manager, is listening, just bring the... I've ordered a coffee with sugar, so just bring it in.
Yeah,
just
okay.
bring it in.
Yeah.
Today is International Dog Day, which is a special celebration of dogs all around the world.
But it comes as the Kennel Club has revealed that the curly-coated retriever is making a comeback, with its popularity booming. I've never heard of one like that.
No, let's talk to Ben Simpson-Vernon, vet and veterinary TikTok star. Morning to you.
Morning.
Nice to see you. Look, it's nice to celebrate, because I tell you what is worrying, and to start off on a negative, is that there's all this concern, this awful story about dog napping and a man who's been killed in Manchester and all this sort of thing. I mean, if we're going to celebrate dogs, we need to celebrate good dog ownership and responsible buying of dogs as well, don't we?
Yeah, I think that's something a lot of the dog welfare charities are campaigning for at the moment, is trying to make people aware of, what they should really be looking for when they're purchasing a new dog. The problem is...
Excuse me, I'm going to go and get your coffee.
Oh, you're a star, thank you.
Yeah. I think with the COVID pandemic, people have turned to the internet as the sort of source when they're buying a puppy, and will just Google, I want a puppy of this breed. And people want convenience. And that's the thing. A lot of these dogs that are stolen can easily end up being sold to people would just have absolutely no idea the source of the puppy, maybe haven't done their due diligence.
I have to say, paying for this, well, I'm getting a dog on Tuesday.
Oh, are you? Yeah.
And paying for that, the bank was all, oh, is this a fraudulent payment? And all that. And I was on the phone for 10 minutes, and they were saying, have you bought the dog on Facebook? I was like, no.
Be surprised how many people do.
Yeah, people do, don't they? They fall for the lovely picture.
Yeah. And they'll go and see it, and they may even go and see the puppy and have some concerns that they, perhaps they're aware that, so you should really be seeing the mother of the dog. If you're buying a puppy, you should see the puppy interacting with its mum as well, because some of these, there are organised crime gangs that are now breeding or trafficking puppies because it's big money selling them, and they'll set up a dummy mum with the puppies. So it's important to see, if you're going to see a puppy, that the puppy is interacting with the mother as normal. But people are aware of some of these things, but will choose to overlook it if the puppy's cute and generally looks fairly healthy.
Yeah, I don't know why we were showing that picture. That's of two actually beautiful dogs, talking about celebrating International Dog Day. They were guide dogs who led their owners out of the Twin Towers on 9/11.
Wow.
They managed to get their owners out.
Wow.
And those two dogs, I think, have been given some sort of dog award.
Wow.
But it is a wonderful day for celebrating some remarkable dogs and beautiful dogs. And have you ever heard of the curly-coated?
Yeah.
Did I say it was retriever?
I have. There aren't very many of them around. I think the Kennel Club statistics are that so far this year there have been 45 puppies registered, but last year I think significantly less than that over the whole year. So there's been a bit of a boom in their numbers, but they're one of these vulnerable native dog breeds that the Kennel Club are concerned might die out, really. And a lot of dog breed popularity really is guided by what dog breeds are fashionable and in the media.
Does that worry you? The fashionable dogs, which aren't necessarily healthy dogs.
Yeah.
Are they? They can be sort of... Because I know that pugs were really fashionable, and there can be a lovely dog, but there's concerns with their breathing and their eyes and all sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a bit of a two-pronged thing in that some of these popular dog breeds are ones that are inherently have a lot of health problems, like the pugs that have quite an extreme anatomy and extreme features that mean that that flatter face means that they have some breathing issues and issues with their eyes, as you pointed out, etc. But also, it may be that some dog breeds, like cross breeds like cockapoos, are extremely popular, but the fact that they're fashionable means that there are those sort of unscrupulous people there ready to jump in on that trend and sell those dogs without, putting in the time and effort to make sure they're doing things properly.
Yeah, I mean, some breeds do have inherent problems, don't they? I was looking into the face of my little dog the other day, and I think she's a Bichon Frise. I think she's got cataracts, so we're going to have to go. And then I looked it up I googled it, and I put cataracts in dogs. First, what breed to come up was a Bichon Frise.
Yeah.
So they clearly have problems with their eyes.
Get that. So I would say as well, though, it's very common for older dogs to develop cloudy eyes. They can get
could just be that.
something called nuclear sclerosis, so the lens in their eye can harden with age, so their eyes look cloudy. It doesn't affect their vision. So different to a cataract. So definitely get your vet to check it. It may not be as bad as you fear. Yeah.
In terms of all of this, and we're very lucky because we can afford sort of the vet bills and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Not that we would necessarily want to, because it all gets but it does all get very expensive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I do sort of think you've got to do your research, haven't you? And you've got to be prepared to say, if you're taking on an animal, whatever it is, you've got to say, right, we've got to make sure we can afford to look after this animal and give it the care that it deserves.
That's it. I think if you're thinking of getting a dog, just sit down and work out how much are you likely to spend on that dog, your monthly sort of budget on that dog, but also unexpected things. So if your dog, did, for example, swallow a stone and develop a intestinal blockage and have to have surgery and be hospitalised, you can end up with a bill easily £4,000 plus, which is an awful lot of money.
And you've got to factor in as well. You've got to factor in the amount you're going to spend on the insurance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's expensive too.
Yeah, that's it. So, it's either a case of choosing to put some money aside if you're able to each month to fund these costs, but, you may be unlucky and it's something that do see that your dog falls ill after just a month or two of having them, and you haven't had a chance to build up that savings pot. So insurance is just peace of mind, really, that you're going to be able to cover those costs if your pet does fall ill.
All right, I'm going to use you as a selfishly. Apologies. But,
Come in again next week.
Yeah.
But, so our Ridgeback is from a very reputable breeder, and very well. So we know it's all fit and healthy and all the rest of it at the moment. But what's your advice for me as a first-time dog owner? Getting a big dog. We've planned everything. We've got all the stuff in ready, but what do I prepare for? Is it going to be a shock to the system?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if you're getting a big dog like that, I mean, you're going to be out. I mean, that's a good thing about having a dog as well, and that's something that is going to get you out and about, and you're obviously going to have to exercise that dog a lot and keep it stimulated. But yeah, I mean, going back to vet bills as well, having good quality insurance, because if a big dog falls ill, obviously that dog needs a lot more medication than a little 3-kilogram Chihuahua, so your vet bills can proportionally end up huge.
Mind you, I bet you can spend a lot on a Chihuahua if it's ill, can't you?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
You know, if you're a doctor, you're not allowed to treat members of your own family.
Yeah.
Is that the same with vets? Are you allowed to treat your own animals?
Yeah, no, there's no similar rules. So yeah, no vets are allowed to. I don't. So my parents-in-law have got a Labrador, so we see her all the time. I've got my son's 2, and he's so we're back and forth from my parents-in-law all the time. So we spend a lot of time with her. And I had dogs growing up. I had a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, Bessie, growing up. So she was my sort of childhood dog. Yeah, no.
Did you do mates rates for the in-laws?
So mates rates we do. Yeah, I do. Yeah. We do slip them a free prescription or 2.
Yeah, no, well, fair enough. Fair enough. You've got to keep the in-laws happy. Look, really good to see you, as always, Ben. Thanks
good to see already you, asking about mates.
Well, I never thought of that. Our vets wouldn't be happy if we did that. We'd have to. We've already registered Rex, so he's all registered and ready to go. So.
Okay, well, it's International Dogs Day. It's also, of course, August Bank Holiday, isn't it, this weekend?
So chuck it down.
You'll want to know about the weather.
A brighter outlook with Boxed Solar. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, I'm Alex Deakin. This is your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. For many, it's a bank holiday, which usually means a fairly mixed picture. There'll be some sunshine, there will be some heavy showers around. Certainly today, the shower clouds will be developing in the next few hours. Many starting the day fine and sunny, but I say the showers bubbling up, some heavy ones this afternoon, the chance of a rumble of thunder in places as well. Perhaps not many showers through central Scotland, bit of shelter here, may see longer spells of sunshine. And as I said, elsewhere it will rain all day. There'll be some sunny spells, but you will have to dodge those downpours, and it's never going to be particularly warm, particularly with a brisk breeze across the west coast of Scotland. Through this evening, still quite a few heavy showers around, so if you've got plans, bear that in mind. The showers will tend to fade through the second half of the night, so we'll always keep some wet weather across West and North Wales and further showers in northern Scotland. But elsewhere, turning largely dry and clear. Temperatures will dip down into single figures in rural spots, so a fresh start to Sunday. Again, tomorrow, many places will start dry. Good chance you'll wake up to some blue sky, and for many, it'll stay fine through the morning. But the clouds will be bubbling up across central and then eastern parts with some showers developing. A bit dry maybe for western parts of Scotland. Wales not looking too bad through the afternoon before more cloud and rain spill into the northwest later on. And again, on the cool side for most temperatures below average for the time of year.
A brighter outlook with Boxed Solar. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Well, fingers crossed it's going to just be nice where you are, or at least not as miserable as it could be. I get depressed with this. And it's what, we're in the last 5 days of summer?
I can't
officially
believe that. That's really not fair.
No.
I have to start looking for a holiday, I think.
Oh, yeah, that would be nice.
Anyway, we've got lots to talk about coming up. Stefan
Yes.
Ketcher will be joining us, telling us all about what's on in the showbiz world.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us. From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com. You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nah, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
7:31, this is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne. Good morning to you. Should we have a bit of showbiz?
I think so. Stephanie seems to be here, so why not make the most of her?
You always look, and if you're listening on the radio, you're missing a treat. You always look lovely. You must have a wardrobe the size of a house.
Oh, my gosh, it is overflowing. It's got to the point I have to develop this mentality that I need to learn how to shop in my wardrobe and not online. Because it's so bad with online shopping. You see something, you're like, click, I'm going to buy it. And I think I do have a bit of a retail addiction. I'm sorry to say.
But you're in the business,
I know,
darling.
I know, but then one day I feel like I'll just have a house full of clothes and nothing of any value. Actually, the clothes will get sold one day, hopefully.
Yeah, tell me about it. I got. And it's like, because I worked in breakfast television so long, and my old boss used to believe it was all about sunshine colours. Yeah. Used to open my wardrobe and go, it's like neons coming at you. And I think yours is probably a bit like that,
it's
isn't
just
it?
so bad. I feel guilty. I get retail
you look
guilt.
gorgeous.
Thank
Talking
you,
about
guys.
feeling guilty, you've got something very interesting to tell us about Parky.
So it's only just over a week since Sir Michael Parkinson died, and his son Mike has been talking about his father's amazing amazing career. And one of the interesting lines that came out, he'd done the interview with BBC Radio 4 on a programme called Last Word, which was dedicated to Parky. He said that all through his career, he suffered from imposter syndrome. And that mostly came down from him being a northerner from South Yorkshire, coming from a village called Cudworth. And he said that at the time when Parky was coming in, he had working class guilt. He didn't think that he was good enough. He felt the BBC were looking down on him. Like, they really questioned his authority just because he was from, from up north. And it's quite, if you think about his career, he's had an amazing career, interviewed all these people, but that sense of working class guilt never left him.
But you see, it was very much a thing, wasn't it, that if you were on... if you were a broadcaster, you had to be posh.
Yeah.
That was always the thing. It changed a little bit in my time. Well, there's a nice picture of you two.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, there we are. Lovely, lovely man. But, I mean, he was very proud of his working class roots. But at the time, in the early days, I can imagine at the BBC, most of his bosses will have been Oxbridge.
Yeah.
And I think they probably did have this slightly patronising attitude towards him. Who was he to be so good at his job? And actually, it's his very ordinariness that made him so extraordinary, isn't it?
And he broke the mould as well. And I think these days, when people think of diversity, they think, oh, it's either you're black, or, whether your sexuality. But diversity can mean so many things. And
absolutely.
You do feel like people, in all industries, if they're not from London, they do need to think about they are coming down south and they are having a different accent, they've had a different way of living. So... to reflect that.
And this business is also, I mean, I don't know if it's true in the theatre as well, certainly in television. I've met lots of people who have that imposter syndrome. They feel that, they're almost too lucky. And they haven't done anything to deserve the luck they're enjoying.
Most women suffer from imposter syndrome. I don't know what it is, why people don't feel like they're good enough to do the jobs they're doing.
I'll tell you what it is. It's because we all sit around and work with people who you think are really professional.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, that Anne Diamond.
Yeah.
She's a real professional. I'm just getting away with it by the skin of my teeth. Until you realise that everyone feels pretty much the same way.
Yeah. Even Dame Esther Ranson said it to me once. She said, I do every programme thinking, oh, I'm going to be found out. One day I'm going to be found out.
Yeah. I feel
like use those words.
No. I do. Viewers always like, you come across so confident. I'm like, inside I'm like...
Really?
Yeah.
That's extraordinary. I wonder why.
Even though I'm talking to friends, you still get that feeling of when you're in the hot seat. So I can imagine Parky felt like that, and even though he met so many celebrities...
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I've got... Mind you, you wouldn't think he had imposters. I was at dinner parties, sat down with him, and he just would talk for hours with just these... regale you with all these tales and things. And he's never stopped. He had so many stories.
I liked his accent.
Yes, his accent's lovely.
Yeah, I would love to see, other than Stephen, of course, I would love to hear more northern accents on TV. It just it breaks all the London twang.
Yes. It does.
Well, we're breaking it down as much as we can, aren't we? Yeah. I'm a Brummie.
Ah.
Oh, yeah. And when I go back to Birmingham, I talk Brummie, and that's awful, because I feel, again, I feel embarrassed.
Did it used to be thicker?
No, no.
Yeah.
I think I've always spoken like... Although, actually, no, if you look back at very old video of me, I have a very... I'm quite posh, actually.
When you used to do breakfast TV before?
Yeah.
Oh.
It was the thing, though. You had to have received pronunciation, didn't you?
Yeah. Interesting.
I've always been common. It's all right.
Same here.
Tell us about Agneta.
Agneta Folksko. I've been trying to pronounce her name properly. She's going to be launching a solo career now. I've been such an ABBA super fan, and, they've had success with ABBA Voyage, and now because of the success of it, she wants to launch a solo career. She's signed up with BMG, who've looked after the likes of Kylie Minogue. So now, at the age of 73...
What?
73. She's always been a bit of a recluse, but I think because of all the success she's had with the ABBA Voyager, she's happy to come back out again.
Well, good for her. I mean, she had a solo album out about 6 years ago. She did a single with Gary Barlow.
She did, actually, and it done pretty well. Fans were quite happy with it. So I think she'll do pretty well. Like, she's always been the person out of ABBA people have been most kind of charmed by and interested in. And she's, it's one of those things where I think she will be able to do quite well in the charts.
Oh, you'd think so.
I think she will.
Well, I think there'll be so many... loyal fans for a start. They will be doing nothing but wishing her well.
It'll be interesting to know what kind of themes she'll be talking about in her music, because she wouldn't have to really go with that edgy pop sound anymore, so it'll be interesting if she strips it back to basics.
I wonder if the gentlemen will write her songs for her. Because they always did, didn't they? They were the songwriters.
Yeah.
And the women sang. But, yeah, I mean, and of course they were genius songwriters.
And I think if she does go with Benny or Bjorn, then she'll know she'll be onto a winner.
Which one was she married to? I can't
She was
remember.
married to Bjorn.
Bjorn.
I used to be obsessed with ABBA.
Did you?
Yeah, even though I was born in the late 80s, I love ABBA.
Yes, I was going to say, it's not your era.
No, but it doesn't age, does it?
Yeah,
it's a weird
no,
thing about
they
ABBA
make good
music.
The music is wonderful, yeah.
Towards the end of it, it was really depressing when they were breaking up, though.
I know. Oh, don't get upset.
The winner takes it all.
was that one of their breakup songs?
Yeah,
Was it really?
Yeah, and One of Us.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I just like
Yeah,
listening to it. No. Stephanie, thank you very much
guys.
indeed. Don't cry for me, Argentina.
I will.
I know it's not an ABBA song, but I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know what. Get off, Stephen.
It's one
Get
of those
off.
days, isn't it? We're going to look through the papers in just a moment. Stick with us.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Weeknights on GB News from 6 p.m. You'll always get drama.
Please stop, Michelle.
I know, yeah.
Please stop.
Should I just shut up?
Romance.
You like me, I like you. There you go.
There you are. Well, don't tell anybody.
Adventure.
Etc.
That's the whole point. And action.
Sergeant Green, my superstar panel that are already at it. They're fighting. It's going to be quite a show.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often there will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
7:42. Good morning to you, whatever you're doing this Saturday morning. Hopefully still in bed with a coffee.
Celebrating International Dogs Day. That's what you're doing, isn't it? Shall we have a look and see what's in today's newspapers? And The Sun has America's Most Wanted with that now historic picture of Donald Trump's mugshot.
The Mail has the story of a man killed in his home by a gang of dog nappers. Apparently they tried to steal his Labradoodle. It's an awful story.
And then the British Museum scandal. The boss steps down over thefts. That leads The Guardian after Hartwig Fischer accepted responsibility for failures to respond to warnings.
And The Times has the weight loss drug holding, apparently, the key to curing heart failure. It's a breakthrough which could affect millions of people worldwide, of course.
Yeah, we'll have a good look at that in a couple of seconds, because joining us to look through the papers, Assistant Editor of The Spectator, Cindy Yu, alongside Deputy Editor of Spiked, Fraser Myers. And Fraser, that's your story, isn't it?
Yeah, this is incredible news. So the drug semaglutide, or I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Semaglutide, that's it. Also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. It started off as a drug for type 2 diabetes, and then people noticed that it was helping people lose a lot of weight. And now they're saying that it could cure heart failure, essentially, which, you know, affects millions of people, a million people in the UK, millions of people around the world. Because essentially what they've realised is that obesity isn't just a kind of cofactor with heart failure, it's probably a leading cause. So drugs that cut obesity, this kind of miracle drug, is also going to have all kinds of knock-on health benefits. And it's interesting because, you know, sometimes a lot of the times you open the paper, particularly The Guardian, there's all this kind of negativity about these weight loss drugs, saying, you know, it's too easy a fix, people should diet and exercise properly. It's almost as if there's this sense that you have to be miserable in order to lose weight. You have to suffer, you have to, you know, go on a strict diet, strictly exercise. But this actually, you know, I think we should be embracing these kinds of miracle cures. It just seems like all-round good news. Maybe there's a few side effects.
I always think the thing with this is because it's not... I think people misunderstand it, because it's not a case if you take the drug and the weight will fall off. It's an appetite suppressor.
Yeah.
So it makes you eat less, which... You know, so you're still sort of putting that work in. It's just you're getting a bit of a help with it.
And anyway, the most important thing is that it works.
Yes,
isn't it? I mean,
exactly.
And if you can help people lose weight, then we become a much healthier nation.
And this the recent study is finding that it's 3 times more effective than pre-existing drugs for heart failure, which is extraordinary.
Yeah, it is. I tell you what incredible news for drug companies who've come up with, you know, it's the side issues, isn't it? When they create something and then realise that it actually does something else as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And
it's
very
just
sweetly
phenomenal.
in the report it said that at a heart conference that this was happening at, the cardiologists had a standing ovation when this result was announced.
Wow.
That's just how revolutionary it is. If there are no, you know, side effects.
The next problem with that particular drug, because we've covered this before, is its availability.
Yeah, there are, I mean, massive shortages because obviously once people found out about its weight loss potential, you know, every celebrity is on it. You'll read Boris Johnson wrote his first Daily Mail column talking about how he tried it.
Yeah.
Jeremy Clarkson's tried it. Everyone in Hollywood is on it, and understandably so, because, you know, people want to lose weight, look fit, and if you can do that without putting in the effort, I'd say more power to you. But it is impossible to get your hands on. I feel obviously very sorry for the diabetics who want to get their hands on it, who are now struggling. But clearly, you know, if the drug companies recognise there's a demand, they will be making more, won't they?
Yeah, they will.
And I think there are worries about fake semaglutide on the market as well, so that's a concern. So I think, you know, viewers at home should really just get a doctor to kind of...
Yes, don't be buying it off the internet.
No, don't buy random injections off the internet.
No, people do, though. People do. Get it off a doctor.
You can now.
Yeah.
Cindy, you've been looking at the Telegraph. I mean, this story is going to go on and on, I suspect. But more parents think that Lucy Letby may well have attempted or even killed their babies.
Yeah, and the police are looking into 4,000 suspicious deaths of babies, or sudden deaths of babies. And so just imagine you're not one of those parents, one of those 13 cases that the trial did look at. Your child did die in a suspicious circumstance in that hospital. You feel like you've seen Lucy Letby. You know, the kind of... Even if your child wasn't actually killed, you know, the kind of concern, anxiety that you might be one of these affected, but you're not going to get justice. I just cannot imagine. So 2 of these families have now come forward to say that their kids had died in similar circumstances. One of them had a mild genetic disorder that should not have been life-threatening, but again, suddenly passed away, and Lucy Letby was on the ward on the day. So
you can't even imagine how big this is going to be.
Exactly.
It could be ginormous, hundreds maybe, let alone thousands.
What is extraordinary, though, with this case, I mean, because I remember back in my very, very early days, the Beverley Alec case, which was heard in Nottingham, the idea with this, that you've still got people coming out who know her really well saying, "We can't believe this." And that, we never got that with Alec. And that just adds another dimension to it, really. A troubling dimension. I'm not saying you need to doubt the conviction, but it just leaves a very odd taste in your mouth, doesn't it? You just think, what's going on? I tell you what, I feel sorry for her parents.
Oh, I feel
who will be
so
getting abuse.
So sorry for her.
She's their only child. You know,
she's their only child, yeah.
Very sorry.
And by all accounts, she had a very happy childhood.
Yeah, I mean, people will always look for sort of childhood in the explanations for this. I don't think you can explain evil in this way. The thing we need to understand more than anything is how it was allowed to go on for so long. That, for me, is critical. I don't think we'll ever get into the mind of a killer like her. But as you say, you know, there are some people coming out of the woodwork doubting the conviction, probably, I think, far too soon. People have set up a crowdfunder on her behalf. I don't understand those people either, quite frankly.
Well, no, I don't. Well, do you know what? I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, because I think you've got to have an open system of justice where, and if people want to fight a conviction, they can do so, and all the rest. There'll always be people who never believe in a conviction, but at least people can have that discussion and argument and raise money or do whatever they want to do. So I sort of support their ability to do that, even if I don't support what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, no.
Does that sound too? I don't know. But you know what I mean. you know what I mean. But it's just such a utterly horrific case.
Well, I think that's the point. That's why I think so many people maybe crowdfunding or something, because you just can't get your head around it. You cannot figure out.
She's kept denying that she's innocent. Kept denying that she's guilty, and she doesn't have an obvious motive. No, there's no, as you say, Stephen. Her friends didn't see this.
But also, she had no defence in court. There was just no. They didn't really put up a defence.
Well,
except I wasn't there. It wasn't me.
Yes, exactly. And all the doctors were just trying to cover up a misconduct or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it is just bizarre to think that something like this could happen. But yes, the question's over how it could be prevented from happening in future. You know, Amanda Pritchard, the NHS chief executive, is going to look into discipline powers for hospital managers, because doctors and nurses are put up to, these standards, but the managers themselves are not. So if they're in misconduct, they should be punished for it.
Yes, and the one who was in charge at the time has since retired to a very large house in the south of France, apparently. He's had to get out of his house in the south of France because he's got the world's press at his gate. It's making life for him completely
and look,
intolerable.
it must have been a difficult call for them.
Yeah.
You'd never want to accuse one of your staff of being a murderer. I mean, that's a really serious
No, but you do want to investigate.
But you do want to investigate it, and you do want to get people involved to do that.
Fraser, let's have a look at the Mail, should we, and what they're calling Sadiq Khan tyrannical tax grab.
Yes, so there's talk that... could this be Sadiq Khan's poll tax, essentially? The ULEZ is so deeply unpopular. It's going to cost people, £12.50 a day is absolutely prohibitive for an extraordinary number of people, affecting Greater London, Outer London, where, the transport links are not as good. Places are not connected to the tube. People are much more reliant on their cars. The Mail has a little pull-out of all the sort of various businesses that are going to be affected. The Boy Scouts haven't got the right ULEZ-compliant vans, so that's going to cost them a fortune. Lots of cases of disabled people who are essentially going to be confined to their homes, people who are going, expecting to go bust with their small businesses. So it's really, it's crunch time is coming on Thursday. I think that, I don't know, it could be a huge mistake for the Mayor. He's been so adamant that this is it's either his way or the highway.
Yeah, it's tone deaf, isn't it?
It's that ULEZ is the most important thing in the world, and it's going to save thousands of lives. And if you're against it, then you must be a far-right conspiracy theorist. Whereas actually, you know, there's so many legitimate concerns about this.
And it's not just about London.
And it's not just about London. And actually, most of the people affected by it, around 85% of the people who are expected to pay the fines, live outside of London. And, you know, if you live in Essex, you live in Hertfordshire, it's very easy to, you know, just cross one road and suddenly find yourself in the ULEZ zone. And so the Mail gives an example of a graveyard just bordering Essex. So imagine you're going to, you know, drop flowers off at your mother's grave or something like that, and you're hit with a ULEZ charge for going essentially what you thought was simply a road round the corner. So, yeah, it's not just London, and this issue as well, you know, is in other cities as well across the UK. It hasn't quite got the attention as the ULEZ, but this is.
But he's not rowing back, is he? He's pushing ahead with it.
No, that's the thing, and you know, he could have said, because ultimately this is coming from the central government. Weirdly, you know, there are various requirements on the mayor to clean up the air. He also has to pay off TfL's debts. He could have put up a fight like Andy Burnham did in Manchester. You know, Andy Burnham delayed the implementation of the Clean Air Act there. He said, you know, this is not good for my people. Whereas Sadiq Khan has made himself a crusader for this. He's written a book even about it called Breathe, about the scourge of air pollution. So it's very strange. He's really taken up this crusade in a way that I think is very unhelpful for him, and you know, paints him in a very bad
well,
light.
it's not doing him any favours, that's for sure. We've got to leave it there, sadly, but we'll see you in the next hour. Cindy, Fraser, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
So, given that it's a bank holiday and it's August, what sort of weather are we expecting, I wonder? I don't think it's going to be terribly good. Not for you.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, I'm Alex Deakin. This is your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. For many, it's a bank holiday, which usually means a fairly mixed picture. There'll be some sunshine, there will be some heavy showers around. Certainly today, the shower clouds will be developing in the next few hours. Many starting the day fine and sunny, but say the showers bubbling up, some heavy ones this afternoon, the chance of a rumble of thunder in places as well. Perhaps not many showers through central Scotland, bit of shelter here, may see longer spells of sunshine. And as I said, elsewhere it will rain all day. There'll be some sunny spells, but you will have to dodge those downpours, and it's never going to be particularly warm, particularly with a brisk breeze across the west coast of Scotland. Through this evening, still quite a few heavy showers around, so if you've got plans, bear that in mind. The showers will tend to fade through the second half of the night, so we'll always keep some wet weather across West and North Wales and further showers in northern Scotland. But elsewhere, turning largely dry and clear. Temperatures will dip down into single figures in rural spots, so a fresh start to Sunday. Again, tomorrow, many places will start dry. Good chance you'll wake up to some blue sky, and for many, it'll stay fine through the morning. But the clouds will be bubbling up across central and then eastern parts with some showers developing. A bit dry maybe for western parts of Scotland. Wales not looking too bad through the afternoon before more cloud and rain spill into the northwest later on. And again, on the cool side for most temperatures below average for the time of year.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're going to be talking in a couple of moments about that kiss.
Yes.
And it's interesting, Anthony points out something about granny kisses.
Oh, yeah, go on.
I always remember visiting Granny, and every time you decided to leave, Granny made sure she got me with a big, huge granny kiss. It was horrible and scared me for life, or scarred me for life, I think.
Oh, poor Granny.
Grannies are very well known for those sort of kisses, aren't they?
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it. Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com? You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nah, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
Is the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Well, what a morning it's proving to be weather-wise. Miserable. Hang on in there for this bank holiday weekend. Not a lot of fun. Keep you up to date with that throughout the morning. It is 8 o'clock on Saturday, the 26th of August. Today, kissed off. Spanish footballers, men and women, refusing to play until their FA boss resigns over that controversial World Cup kiss.
RMT members have walked out once again, leaving many of us unable to travel by train during a busy bank holiday weekend.
The biggest search for the Loch Ness monster in 50 years takes place today using drones and hydrophones. But will we find her?
One day we will. And Alex from the Met Office has your weather.
A cool start to a fairly cool long weekend. There'll be some sunshine, but there'll also be some heavy showers, especially today. Get your full weekend forecast with me coming up later.
Morning, I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Anne Diamond, and this is Breakfast on GB News. Do you believe in the Loch Ness monster?
Yes.
Thought you might. Thought you'd check.
Yeah.
I do too. You ever been there?
Yes, love it.
I know, it is amazing. If you ever go to Loch Ness, you can't take your eyes off the water.
No.
Because what if she surfaced while you were there?
Just be there.
You have to. You find yourself just staring at the lake all the day.
Ian in Middlesbrough has been in touch. Hi, Ian. He says, my mother-in-law went for a swim in Loch Ness and the monster jumped out.
Oh, careful, careful, careful. Mother-in-law jokes not on, I don't think.
Public toilets we were talking about
Yes.
earlier on. There's a call for more. The Lib Dems want more funding for good public toilets. Stephen Bradford says in Dunbar, the public toilets are supreme.
Well, I'm glad you're proud of them. Yeah, absolutely. Roderick says, come to France, the past world capital of awful public loos.
Oh, those ones that you do.
Pissoir.
Oh,
They're called pissoirs.
The pissoirs are terrible. But also those ones where they just have 2 foot plates.
Oh,
do you remember that?
Yes. Now, he says, there are loads of modern self-cleaning toilets free to use, very clean. There is no excuse not to have decent public toilets. Councils have been shutting them because they've been starved of funds to maintain them.
And Steve said...
maintenance.
They do. Steve says we should have the same rules as Spain, where any bar, restaurants or any establishment the public use have to allow the use of their toilets to everyone. I didn't know that about Spain.
I didn't. That's interesting. That's sort of shoving the responsibility onto bar and restaurant owners.
Mind you, if they're there...
Yeah.
If the toilets are there...
But if people are just coming in to use the loo, that's not very nice either, is it?
No, you should have public ones that you don't have to pay for. And that can... those self-cleaning things, though, I'm always a bit worried the door's going to open.
Well, I know. It's really worrying, isn't it? You have to have a friend and park them outside, I think.
Real sense of fear that the door's just going to slide open, which did happen to me once on a train.
Oh, no!
Because apparently on a train, when the door slides shut, you have to then press the lock button.
Yes, and you didn't.
Which I didn't realise, and then someone opened it.
Oh, that's embarrassing.
I just turned round sheepishly and apologised.
I bet.
There you go, that's more information than you need.
Yeah, it really is. Happy International Dogs Day, by the way. Eileen says, dogs are wonderful company. I lost my dog in April. He was nearly 15 and it broke my heart. He'd been my only company since 2017. Yeah, you get very fond of them, don't you?
Oh, dear. We're also talking this morning about that kiss.
Yes.
The Spanish kiss, which is causing a lot of controversy. Billy actually says, you're making a big thing of this kiss. Why is everyone nowadays made to feel offended or violated? Well, look, it's a valid point, but when you look at the details of this, I don't know if you're missing it slightly, Billy, because it's
more than that.
It doesn't seem right.
Yep.
Anyway, the Spanish World Cup winner, Jenny Hermoso, says in no moment did she consent to kiss the country's Football Federation president, Luis Rubiales.
And this comes, of course, as players are announcing a boycott over it. They say they're not going to play. That's not just the women's game in Spain. It's the Lionesses are getting very upset about it here in England. And some of the Spanish men are saying they won't play until something is done.
Well, Hermoso herself said she was vulnerable and the victim of aggression. And as we say, the rest of the team have said that they won't play.
Well, they want him to... Oh, they want him to be booted out, don't they?
As does the Spanish government, actually. They've actually started legal action to suspend him from his post.
Well, he's 46-year-old Mr Rubiales, and as you can see there from coverage in the Daily Mail, he grabbed her, basically, and kissed her full on the lips during the awards ceremony following their victory at the World Cup. And it's really spoiled things now, this controversy, hasn't it?
It has.
On top of that, he didn't just grab her and kiss her. You can tell what sort of... In my view, you can tell what sort of a guy he is, because when they had their win, he was seen, in front of the world, doing what they call a crotch grab, you know what I mean? Which was highly inappropriate and made him just look thuggish. And if that's the sort of man he is, then you can understand the women being as upset as they are.
Yeah.
And not just the women.
Again, I'm all for standing up for... I think men are victimised, actually, with some things around these sort of issues, sometimes. But I have to say, when you're in that position and doing that, and that crotch grab just looked very odd, actually.
It's totally inappropriate.
Anyway, the Lionesses, as Anne said, have... sort of spoken in solidarity. They've released a statement saying unacceptable actions allowed to happen by a sexist and patriarchal organisation. Abuse is abuse. We've all seen the truth. The behaviour of those who think they are invincible must not be tolerated, and people shouldn't need convincing to take action against any form of harassment. We all stand with you. Interesting. Where was that? There was a line I just wanted to bring you about the statement from the Lionesses that someone didn't quite agree with. Oh, here we go, it's Alan. Says the Spanish president bloke is an idiot and should step down, but why are the Lionesses using terms like sexist?
It's misogynistic.
Misogynistic, yeah.
Paul in Northumberland says, yes, it was inappropriate. Yes, he shouldn't have done it. Yes, it was unprofessional. But crikey, can we get some proportionality?
OK, well, let's see what former referee and FIFA instructor Janie Frampton makes of it all. Hi, Janie. Good to see you this morning. What do you think of this?
Well, again, I think I share pretty much most of those comments. It's totally inappropriate behaviour. And what makes him think that he can actually, firstly, you know, what he did when they won with the crotch grab, I think is just shocking. When you know that the world presses on you, why do it? It's like scratching your bottom in public, isn't it? You just don't do it. But secondly, the kiss, what on earth, even in the moment of excitement, and I've had many of those in football, but I've never felt that I'm going to turn around and kiss the nearest man to me on the lips. You have to control yourself. And what's made me really cross is he's come out and said that he asked if it was okay to kiss her, and she said yes. But when you look at the video clip, there's no way that there was that sort of time to have that sort of dialogue. So I feel that he's not being quite truthful on the back of it all.
Have you heard, as is being suggested in some of the reports now, that the Spanish female team feel that they're being a bit controlled? There obviously is a misogyny problem, or at least that's what's being suggested. They don't like their coach very much, and he appears to be very controlling in his behaviour.
Yes, and that is the problem, Anne, because these people are in positions of power, and then they do feel that there is a control element, and if that player spoke out, it could affect her ability to make the team at a later date. You know, the government are against him. Both national teams are against him. Why on earth is the Spanish FA not taken action and just taken it out of his hands? I'm sorry, but we can't have this sort of misogynistic behaviour within our organisation.
How important is it, actually, that the Spanish men's team have said what they've said? And I mean, basically, some of their players saying, well, we're not going to play till it's sorted out, in terms of solidarity.
Yeah, Stephen, that's brilliant. It really is. Because I've spoken to many people in the last few days, and interestingly enough, some of the men I've spoken to have said, yeah, it's inappropriate, but hey, is he really going to lose his big job because of it? But you need to walk in the shoes of a woman who's on the receiving end of that behaviour before you can actually know how it feels. And that's where I think it's brilliant that the male team has also come out and supported, you know, the women.
I mean, clearly, as we were saying there, they've got a problem in the Spanish female team there. I mean, has it been like this elsewhere too? Is this how difficult it has been for women in football?
Oh, for sure. And in different roles in football, you know, be it players, referees or coaches. We've had several cases over the years, particularly of coaches that have taken advantage of female players. You know, basically, there was one case many years ago, I won't name names, but he was having a relationship with a 17-year-old in his team, and he was selecting that team. And of course, that also then meant, is that fair for the rest of the team, whether they get selected or not, or do you have to sleep with the coach before you get selected? So when you're in a position of power, you cannot do these things. You know, whether you want to or not, you just can't. And the Spanish FA have to take action. He's going to have to go eventually. He can't possibly stay in his role. It's untenable. So just stop it right now in its tracks, get him gone, and let's talk about the fabulous success of the women's team.
What would you say to those people who've been in touch this morning? And there have been a few, and actually quite a few of them have been women, I have to say, who've said, look, it's just it's just a moment of excitement. He was caught up in the moment.
And I do get that. But like I said, I've been caught up in the moment in football, and I've not turned to the nearest man and given him a full kiss on the lips with my excitement. You have to, when you're in positions of power, if you like, or of a profile, you just can't do it. You know, you just can't. It's inappropriate. And I feel really strong now, the fact that he's come out and and put this story out, and we assume it's not correct as the player is denying it emphatically, and the video evidence would also probably go on the side of the player as well. So why are we still talking about this? Please, let's just talk about the football. Spanish FA, do something constructive.
Yeah, and it's interesting that not only is it the kiss itself that is getting everybody worked up, but Jenny Hermoso, the player, saying she's been, for the last few days, she's been under terrific pressure from, she doesn't actually say, to withdraw her basic complaint. She said the pressure is really upsetting her now.
Yes, and I do get that. And I've been in positions in the past where that's happened, where people have tried to downplay situations that they've not been on the receiving end. She needs to stick to her guns. Otherwise, it's not going to stop. You know, these things will happen again in the future. And again, you have to nip it in the bud now, and you have to stand strong. I'm not a fan of the whole woke world that we are in now, but we're in it. So we have to live it. And we have to live it by the standards that are laid out in it. And I feel that is completely inappropriate. And I think also, Anne, sometimes as a woman, you have almost a sixth sense of whether a man is doing this innocently or whether it's a misogynistic thread in there. And I think that's something else that needs to be taken into consideration. And looking at his crotch grab to start with, I think that says an awful lot about the man. I'm sorry, it does.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I think.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Look, as always, it's good to see you, Janie. Thanks very much indeed.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what brings it to me slightly, and he's actually making the opposite point. It's Mark in Lancashire. Hi, Mark, who lived in Spain for 4 years. And he said, well, my 77-year-old mother came to visit. The landlord of my flat did exactly the same thing. He grabbed her head, kissed her full on the lips. My mother was laughed and was shocked, but nobody saw it as offensive or sexual.
I'd find that offensive.
I sort of, we see, I can't help but you think of like your own mother and
personal
things, don't
space. You think?
And actually, my mother would laugh it off.
Yeah.
But she'd be laughing it off to not make a scene.
Exactly, and she'd probably feel deeply uncomfortable later thinking about it.
And so she wouldn't want to make a scene, but she would not be happy.
No, exactly.
About it. I don't know.
It's not on. It's inappropriate. Grow up.
Right. I'd say with Jenny, I'm not a big fan. I'm certainly not of the wokerati.
No.
But I don't.
But we live in more civilised times about things like this, and yeah, the man should grow up.
Hold, kiss on the cheek. Be as ecstatic as you like, but that's too full on.
Not only should they get rid of him, frankly, they should get more angry about it the more I think, but they've got to make sure that they actually clean up what is clearly some sort of climate of misogyny.
Something doesn't smell right.
No, it doesn't, does it?
But anyway, maybe you disagree, whatever you think, yeah. gbviews@gbnews.com. Now, rail workers across England have walked out again today. It's part of their very long-running dispute over pay, and indeed more strikes have been planned for next Friday and Saturday as well.
So thousands travelling to events and festivals today will be effective, as only around half the usual train services are going to run, and they will finish much earlier than usual.
Earlier, we spoke to Simon Calder, and he started with a brief look back at what is a very long-running dispute.
Basically, the rail unions, the RMT, who are going on strike today, and ASLEF, the train drivers union, are on strike on next Friday, the 1st of September. They say, we worked all the way through COVID. We haven't had a proper pay increase. We want a decent pay rise that takes into account the racing inflation. And furthermore, then we will talk about possibly reforming some of our working practices, but that's going to cost you. You're going to give us an extra percentage for each thing we negotiate away. The train companies, meanwhile, and the government, who ultimately are going to sign off any pay deal, say, you're joking. Rail revenue has collapsed since the COVID pandemic, basically because people aren't commuting in from Winchester and Woking to Waterloo at the same way that they were. We've lost all that season ticket revenue. The only way you can even get a modest pay rise is if you agree to some reforms, which the rail unions see as cuts, and the government and train operators say are very necessary to cut the cost of running the railway. But caught in the middle of this great long route, of course, the passenger. And today, if you're travelling by rail in England, and remember that Transport for Wales and ScotRail are not affected, then it's going to be a messy old day again. But actually, when you say half the trains are running, the train operators say it's slightly more than that. And it's kind of evidence, and that they are looking to have a kind of war of attrition, whereby the eventually all the rail workers, having lost thousands of pounds going on strike and not apparently achieving anything, will return to work. Meanwhile, Mick Lynch, General Secretary of the RMT union, says, no, we are solid and we will strike for as long as it takes to win this dispute.
I mean, away from what is happening for passengers today, because they're almost two separate issues in a way. I mean, it's because whether the trains are running or not, people will avoid them, I guess, on a strike day. But in terms of what the RMT is trying to achieve, and there's been all this hoo-ha over inflation, obviously, and understandably, inflation's coming down. Does that not weaken their argument?
Well, they would point out, and I think there is some justification to this, that, look, we simply want to be able to buy what we could buy in 2019. That's the line from Mick Whelan, who's the General Secretary of the Train Drivers Union. They're in a rather different category. The government says, look, you can have a pay rise, which is going to take the average wage for a 4-day week without overtime from £60,000 to £65,000 a year. So, yeah, they say we just want inflation recognised. The government's offering basically 4% for last year, 4% for this year, contingent on accepting those changes. But for RMT members who are more poorly paid, they say the increase can be anything up to 13%. And they're also saying, look, for goodness sake, RMT, put this to a vote of your members rather than just the National Executive Committee sitting around having a look at it and saying, that's no good. We're going to go on strike again. And meanwhile, of course, and I think you were implying this, Stephen, it's so corrosive for confidence in the railways just at the time when you need to be able to plan journeys. For instance, I've got an important trip, London to Bristol, 3 weeks' time. I've bought a coach ticket, very good value, and I know it's going to run.
Well, that train station looks nice, though, doesn't it, in Stockholm?
Stockholm, yeah, it does. And Simon was saying it's ticketless, totally ticketless.
No offices.
You have to do it all with an app, I expect.
Which is the big thing. There was a piece, actually, in the paper yesterday with people complaining about... Because one of the big contentious issues is getting rid of the ticket offices. And there was quotes from 4 people, politicians and things, and saying, well, it's going to cause this problem and that problem. And then there's one from the RMT boss, whose name is Mick Lynch, saying it's going to turn our train stations into drug dens or haven for drug dealers or something.
Why?
I don't know if that's true, because they're not going to get rid of all the staff. There'll still be people on.
Oh, I see. Yeah, the idea that you'd lose staff.
Yeah. So, I don't know if I agree with that.
Well,
maybe he's got a point.
If you can't get anywhere by train, stay at home, take the dog for a walk. It is International Dogs Day. And of course, he's getting a dog in 2 days' time?
Yeah, Tuesday.
Yeah. And beautiful Rhodesian Ridgeback.
Yes.
Of which you had a picture we were going to show.
I was going to...
Because the little puppy, he looks big already.
Yeah.
He looks bigger than mine.
8 weeks, we will be big.
But,
so this
no,
is...
the one with the paws.
The one with the paws.
Yeah,
so, because these are actually
They always say you can tell how big a dog is going to get by looking at its paws.
Which is the best one for the paws? Because these are 4 different... These are the 4...
That's the one.
These are the 4... I don't know which one is ours yet.
If you can possibly close in on that a bit, look at the size of that puppy's paws. That is going to be a big dog.
They are big, big, big dogs.
Yeah.
But beautiful. They've got a lovely, calm temperament. So there you go.
Elaine...
So that may be Rex. We don't know yet.
Yeah. Elaine has already messaged in. She says, as an animal lover all my life with cats and dogs, in my experience, the first 3 days of getting a new one are nerve-wracking. And that's only because I don't want them to be upset. But honestly, after 3 days, everyone settles down and gets used to each other, becoming great friends. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
By the time we're coming to work on Friday...
Yeah, You'll be fine. You'll be
fine.
blasé about the dog.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much for pictures of your dogs, by the way.
Oh, yes. Jane's been in touch, and he says, she says, it's a picture of our gorgeous golden retriever.
It's a beautiful
16-week-old puppy called Nala, fast asleep with her foxy locks.
Yes, he's got a toy. They all like their favourite toys. And then Pauline in Swansea says, every day is a dog day here. If you're on, sorry, if you're listening on the radio, you're just going to have to try and find this picture. But the dog's in his basket with a hat on his head, and it just looks wonderful. He's keeping cool.
Ollie.
It's beautiful.
He looks like the man from Del Monte.
He does. Then we've got Diane in Pencada in Wales, who says, we have over 100 dogs at our rescue and rehabilitation centre in Wales. Most of them are collies.
Oh, now that is going to
Collies.
keep you busy.
Mike, look at them all. But they're all looking at camera.
That's very well done.
That's very good.
You're holding a big steak up or something above your head to take that picture.
Beautiful picture.
I hope you have lots of joy rehousing those beautiful boys and girls. Belinda says this is Bailey, excited on his walk. What a great
Dog's
shot.
in midair. That's absolutely beautiful.
I couldn't tell you what breed that is.
No, you can't tell me. It's flying. Helen says, good morning, Stephen and Anne. Here's a picture of my dog, who's a Chihuahua called Coco.
Oh, hello,
That's the
Coco.
cheekiest little face you've ever seen. It's a lovely way to celebrate International Dogs Day, just having a look at your dogs. Thank you so much for sending them in.
They do bring a lot of joy. Well, all animals do. All animals do, but I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to more than anything is because I can be extremely lazy, have to say. And I know and a ridgeback needs a lot of exercise.
It really will.
And so I will be forced out walking the dog for several hours a day, and that's got to be a good thing. It's got to be a healthy thing. It's going to have to be done. So there you go. Come rain or shine, it's going to have to be done. Talking of which...
Here's the weather.
Yeah, here's the weather with Alex.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, I'm Alex Deakin. This is your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. For many, it's a bank holiday, which usually means a fairly mixed picture. There'll be some sunshine, there will be some heavy showers around. Certainly today, the shower clouds will be developing in the next few hours. Many starting the day fine and sunny, but I say the showers bubbling up, some heavy ones this afternoon, the chance of a rumble of thunder in places as well. Perhaps not many showers through central Scotland, bit of shelter here, may see longer spells of sunshine. And as I said, elsewhere it will rain all day. There'll be some sunny spells, but you will have to dodge those downpours, and it's never going to be particularly warm, particularly with a brisk breeze across the west coast of Scotland. Through this evening, still quite a few heavy showers around, so if you've got plans, bear that in mind. The showers will tend to fade through the second half of the night, so we'll always keep some wet weather across West and North Wales and further showers in northern Scotland. But elsewhere, turning largely dry and clear. Temperatures will dip down into single figures in rural spots, so a fresh start to Sunday. Again, tomorrow, many places will start dry. Good chance you'll wake up to some blue sky, and for many, it'll stay fine through the morning. But the clouds will be bubbling up across central and then eastern parts with some showers developing. A bit dry maybe for western parts of Scotland. Wales not looking too bad through the afternoon before more cloud and rain spill into the northwest later on. And again, on the cool side for most temperatures below average for the time of year.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Oh, well, better luck next year.
Yes, absolutely.
Better luck next summer.
Yeah.
Look, we've got all the sport heading our way with Ada McGee very shortly. This is Breakfast.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We
weeknights on GB News from 6 p.m. You'll always get drama.
Please stop, Michelle.
I know, yeah.
Please stop.
Should I just shut up?
Romance.
You like me, I like you. There you go.
There you are. Well, don't tell anybody.
Adventure.
Etc.
That's the whole point.
And action.
Sergeant, the Big my superstar panel that are already at it. They're fighting. It's going to be quite a show.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often they will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's 8:28. Good morning to you.
Yes, very good morning. Now, I just want to point out from Karen and Neil in Lincolnshire, because you were talking about older ladies need loos.
Yes.
Well, they say, sorry, got to write in. First of all, it's not just older ladies. Older men have problems too, needing the loo more often. And second, here in Mablethorpe, it's 40p for a wee. But don't worry, you can flash your debit card to get through the barriers. And actually, it's also, it's 40p to spend a penny in Skegness as well. That's according to Paul. Thanks very much. Talking about public loos has got everybody going.
Yes, well, no, fair prostate issues. No, fair point. Karen and Neil, fair point.
Brenda says our toilet in Royston in Hertfordshire has been turned into a cafe. I hope with a loo.
Oh,
I know,
doesn't sound quite right, does it?
Fancy the idea of that at all.
I'm sure it's all fine. Anyway, let's talk to Aidan McGee, who's got all the sport for us this morning. Morning.
Morning, both. Good to see you.
Yeah, all right.
Yes, indeed.
Can we talk football?
Yes.
And not good news for Luton, who should be riding high at the minute, but I suppose up against Chelsea.
Yeah, I mean, look, Chelsea haven't started the season in terrific form either. I mean, they lost at West Ham last week. They drew their first game against Liverpool, 1 point from 6, given they spent over £1 billion on players. Luton, I wouldn't be too worried. I mean, that's 2 away games in a row. They're not playing at home because their ground isn't quite ready yet. So it's a little bit distorted. But the story was Raheem Sterling, reborn, it would appear, last night. 2 goals and an assist. We thought for all the world this time last year as if there was a reason Manchester City were getting rid of him. That's why the champions move on top players, even at 27. He goes to Chelsea. He transcends his sport. He's somebody who's well known outside of football. And it just looked last night as if he was back in the groove for the first time in a long time. He's had a horrific year. It was a difficult move to Chelsea. He had to go home during the World Cup because an intruder came into his home and burgled his home. He had to go home, missed about 3 or 4 of England's matches. And so it was good to see him back and playing well, because that's good news for England as well. And Chelsea needed a statement result. Yes, it was Luton at home. They were expected to beat them. But nonetheless, I think they needed to win by more than 1 goal. That's their first win at home since about March, which is quite extraordinary for a club that's spent that much money in the transfer window. And it's a big day in the Premier League as well today, because this is the day when the panicking starts. The deadline day for transfers is next Thursday, I think it is, 31st. £1.95 billion has already been spent by Premier League clubs.
Good Lord.
If you get a few bad results today, you might see a bit more spent on later this week, because they'll start panicking. They can't sign anybody until January. We've got some Arsenal playing Fulham today, Bournemouth, Tottenham, Brentford against Crystal Palace. If any of those teams get a bad result today, you might see some big money being spent. And where on earth does it end? I think the Premier League is becoming existential. It's becoming so important to stay in it and in the Champions League that you spend even more money just to stay in it, just to stand still. Where does it end? 1.9, but it will probably go over £2 billion this week.
You could run a small country on that.
A few small countries, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Boxing, AJ.
Another bad week.
Well, honestly, I mean, he lost his last opponent because of an adverse drug test.
Yeah.
Now this one.
Well, this is extraordinary, because he could have been in danger this time, because Robert Helenius returned this adverse analytical finding, which in layman's term means that he failed a voluntary drugs test. Now, he officially, technically went into the fight on drugs. That's what they're effectively saying here. And so Matchroom, the promoters, didn't find out until afterwards, which begs the question, what's the point of a voluntary drugs test if we're not going to know the outcome before the fight takes place? Anthony Joshua's put himself at risk there. Yes, I know he had lost his first opponent. They had to get the show on the road. That, if you're being cynical, would be the wider story here. But another awful week for boxing. I mean, you know, one of the questions we've got on the sheet here, is it any wonder people are watching celebrity fights? Well, you can see that. There's a huge vacuum. People aren't seeing the fight. The fans aren't seeing the fights they want to see. And as soon as a sport becomes associated with drugs in the way that boxing has in the last year, you end up like athletics. The World Athletics Championship is happening this week. Nobody's paying attention.
Because they don't feel it's real.
They don't, and they haven't done for 20 years. Do you remember when we were kids? We'd know who all the main athletes were.
Yeah.
All the Sally Gunnell, Linford Christie, Chris Akabusi, all household names.
Yes.
The current generation can win medals, and yet we don't know who they are. And that's because the broadcasters couldn't guarantee the sanctity of those races.
Really bad, isn't it?
And so boxing, I worry, is going the same way, because if you're having 2 opponents of the same man failing drugs tests in the same week, in a year when we can't even get these fights on because of contractual and broadcasting issues, then that's a really, really dangerous position for the sport to be in.
Yeah. Is it money that drives it? They just sort of think, well, even if you get... Because presumably...
Yeah, without doubt.
Helenius will still get his money.
Well, not necessarily, no. I mean, if it comes back... It depends. I mean, look, he could say the same as... I mean, we had Conor Benn's situation, before Christmas, didn't we?
Yeah.
Where he pulled out of his fight. That's another one. 3 big fights that should have taken place. Helenius' fight did take place. The previous 2 didn't. But, yeah, of course it's about money. You want to preserve your status. You want to try and... If Helenius goes in with AJ, he knows he's probably going to lose. But if he puts up a good fight, then he'll be used as the next fight as fodder for somebody else. If he's somebody who goes down the first round, it's not a serious fight, and the punters will soon see through it.
Let's talk Gillingham, should we? This incredible, bizarre video, well, awful video.
Well, it is,
you wonder what on earth's gone on.
So, top of the league, they've had a brilliant start to the season. Macaulay Bonne is their statement signing of the summer. He's only been there about a week and a half. And if we can see the footage now, he appears to be driving a BMW, carrying himself at the wheel and 3 other teammates.
Now, we're looking towards the top right of the...
Top right, yeah. Video. This is a road called Woodlands Road in Gillingham, quite near the training ground.
Here it comes.
The car.
Oh!
Goodness me.
What on earth?
Now, you see the player getting out of the front wheel.
Oh, yes.
Just on the left. There's some teammates turning up. They're obviously coming from training, so there's 2 cars turning up.
So was anyone
We've seen
hurt?
the accident. Nobody's hurt at the moment that we can see. Extraordinarily, Gillingham Football Club, who play this afternoon at 3 o'clock against Colchester at home, have not even put out a statement to say whether the players are OK. Now, we think everybody's OK. There's been reports in the media that everyone's reported back fine. But look at the players getting out one by one. I mean, they seem to be on their feet, they're fine. And the owner of the property comes out, you see on the left-hand side, wearing a blue top. He's wondering what on earth's gone on. His wall has collapsed.
His car's not in good shape.
No, he's not in good shape. It's not in good shape at all. And Macaulay Bonne played for QPR. He's a £2 million player 3 years ago. He played for Charlton in the Championship as well. He's well known within the game. George Lapsley as well, an ex-Charlton player, but extraordinary footage there. And for Gillingham not even to put out a statement this morning when they're expecting 6,000-7,000 fans to turn up to the game this afternoon. I just find it extraordinary. They put out a statement this morning about the banning of pyrotechnics in the ground. It's totally irrelevant. I don't know whether they're getting a story straight or speaking to lawyers or whatever. I don't know.
They must be speaking to lawyers.
But it seems to me very, very peculiar that they wouldn't put out a statement just to say everything's OK, if nothing else.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
Thankfully, no one was hurt. Yeah, absolutely.
Very odd. OK, Aidan, thank you very much indeed. Good to see you.
Good to see you, guys.
And it's 8:36, so we'll be looking through the papers in just a couple of moments. Don't go away.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage. Here on GB News, we will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com? You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's 8:39. Yes, good morning. This is me and with breakfast.
Absolutely.
Should we have a look through the papers?
Yes.
Assistant editor of The Spectator, Cindy Yu, is here alongside deputy editor of Spiked, Fraser Myers. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Cindy, let's start with the Mail. And this idea that Prigozhin, the boss of Wagner, who's obviously no more, could become a martyr for his supporters, which is obviously...
I think he already is, isn't he?
Yeah, so Wagner soldiers, after the jet crash, have said that they want to take revenge, which is concerning, and that some of them have threatened to storm the Kremlin. So this article is about how Navalny, remember him, the opposition leader who Putin tried to kill and has now got in jail on fraud charges. Navalny basically talks about how at the top of the Wagner group there's this power vacuum. So what is this really well-resourced, well-trained and kind of, quite large mercenary group all around the world going to do leaderless now? Because in that jet, allegedly, was Prigozhin and the second-in-command of the group. So
and other tried and trusted sort of like cabinet members, weren't there?
Yes.
They were all important.
Exactly. So what are they going to do if they think Putin's responsible? There's going to be a power struggle. What is all of this military resources and expertise going to be directed to now? It is quite a scary situation, I think.
It's sort of scary, but wouldn't the West welcome this and Ukraine welcome this? Because if it destabilised Putin,
yeah, I think Ukraine certainly would welcome this. But I mean, I think if Russia is plunged into a civil war, I mean, from a humanitarian perspective, for the Russian people, this is still a pretty concerning moment. And the problem with Putin leaving, you just never know who's going to replace him.
Well, no.
So in this kind of...
We've been told many times, be careful what you wish for because there are worse.
Yeah,
on standby.
I think sometimes, there's a bit of hope that Putin will be replaced by some sort of Western-looking liberal reformer. I don't think that's very likely. And, the breakup of Russia, the civil war in Russia is a real possibility because it's not just that you have mercenaries like Wagner. There are all kinds of other private armies operating in Russia. Even I was reading about how, even the defence minister is starting his own army. It's
that's crazy.
And you think about how Putin has been using, Chechnyan forces and things like that. So there's lots of warlords around.
Yes.
This is a very scary...
positively medieval,
exactly.
But it was ever thus in Russia, wasn't it? Slovakia and all that sort of business.
Sure, but the problem is now, they're nuclear power.
Well,
there's kind of instability in nuclear power in today's environment. I think it is certainly concerning. And it is interesting to know what's going to happen to this mercenary group after, it's only been a few days.
Yeah.
Well, Fraser, you've been looking at the Financial Times, and it's about people who burn the Quran in protest.
So Denmark and Sweden have been rocked by lots of protests with people burning the Quran. Sometimes it's people from the far right doing it to insult Muslims, but sometimes there have been former Muslims, refugees from Iraq and Afghanistan have been burning the Quran in protest at what they see as an oppressive religion. And this has upset the Muslim world. Turkey, in particular, has been essentially playing hardball with these countries. Sweden's entry into NATO was essentially being blocked or slowed down because of these kinds of protests happening in Scandinavia. And the Danish government have now said that we're going to potentially jail people who burn the Quran, which is, a very dark day for free speech. I don't think there's anything big or clever, by the way, about burning the Quran, but... people should accept that that's a legitimate form of protest.
It's a peaceful protest.
Yeah. People burn flags, people burn Bibles, people burn national symbols.
Effigies.
Effigies. And that is surely, you would hope that in the West, in Europe, people would stand up for people's right to make their voices heard in that way and not introduce a kind of, essentially, sort of medieval Islamic blasphemy law into Western European country.
I do disagree with that, actually, Fraser. I think it's medieval to burn things in public. That's the medieval thing. It's not a peaceful protest, really. It's pretty aggressive. If you're going to be burning something that's, important. I'm not religious myself, but I wouldn't think that Christians would like to see the Bible being burned in an explicit denunciation.
No,
of
you wouldn't.
I think it's disrespectful.
But you wouldn't be jailed for it.
No, but to be fair, in the small print, it's a fine to start with, and for repeat offenders, it's jail sentence measured in days, and then for even more, it's up to 2 years.
It is difficult dealing with protest, which is deliberately aimed at inflaming certain groups, isn't it?
Yes, but I think we do have to recognise that, people have, free speech is not just about being able to say nice things. Everything that's nice is not going to be in trouble from the law. You do have to be able to say outrageous and provocative things. You do have to be able to protest against things that people hold dear to them. Otherwise, free speech is meaningless. And, we're talking about people burning the Bible. I mean, lots of, pop stars or whatever have burnt the Bible on stage in a sort of provocative way.
Oh, yes.
There's all kinds of... we accept that we should be allowed to do artworks portraying Jesus in, you know.
I mean, there are these. I mean, I'm sort of in the middle with this. I don't think it's a nice thing to do. But also, in terms of some of these countries which are now demanding places like Denmark take action, well, they're always burning American flags and effigies of presidents.
Exactly, yeah. They're always having, quite, you know, raucous protests about what's going on in the West. You know, think about some of the stuff against Salman Rushdie, for instance. Some really quite, very violent protests against, if we cause offence to them. And I think it is slightly worrying. It is, you know, external forces calling the shots, essentially pressuring Denmark into giving up what I think is important Western liberal value.
I'm still with you on that.
Yeah, I just don't see how it helps. You know, if your problem is with mass immigration in countries like Denmark and Sweden, which presumably some of the, you know, problems here are, then there are other ways of doing it than to be explicitly disrespectful of someone's religion, which is one of the most fundamental things to people, I think, that deeply people believe in. I think burning is a particularly aggressive way of going about it. You know, I'm not talking about publishing cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad. I think we should be able to do that. That's almost quite passive in a way. But burning, I think the very act of it is really aggressive, especially to do it in front of mosques.
Yes.
They have done.
Oh, it's...
You know, that is explicitly threatening.
OK. Well, your thoughts on that will be welcome. What the hell is this in The Guardian? About South Asian migrant women in the UK fed radioactive bread.
Yeah, this is really, really shocking. And the story, I don't think we know everything about the story just yet, but it's completely shocking in a sense that Warwick University, a researcher, is now trying to track down 20 or so South Asian women who in the 1960s were fed radioactive chapatis to see, you know, basically health results from it. They claim that they didn't know what they were being fed.
Well, I can't understand why they would be being fed radioactive bread. It's sort of pretty obvious.
So Fraser and I were talking about this in the green room, and allegedly it was to see if it would help iron deficiencies. But so much of this is unknown. In the 90s, a documentary was made by Channel 4 about this, and the Medical Research Council did look into it. At the time, they concluded it qualified the consent rules of the time. But since then, they've been strengthened. And the women themselves say that they didn't know what they were eating.
I mean, it's just utterly scandalous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
But they did do some very odd things in the names of medical research back in the... Well, I thought it was before the 60s, but...
It was, this was the late 60s. I think, you know, the fact that this was done without their consent is obviously outrageous, but we shouldn't overstate the sort of risks that they were put under. So essentially, the level of radiation we're talking about would be the same as like an X-ray, and people forget that, you know, we are exposed to radiation all the time. Bananas got radiation in them. You go for the equivalent of an X-ray, I think, every time you get on a plane. If you live in Cornwall, you're especially exposed to radiation.
Really?
It's just in the ground or whatever. I don't really understand how it works. And there's a big scandal at the moment. You know, the Fukushima nuclear plant is going to release all of this radiated water into the ocean. But actually, the amount of radiation that's in it, even though it's been used to clean nuclear power plants, is so small that it won't really have any kind of health effects.
Well, no, that's been cleared by the IAEA, hasn't it? Though China's kicking up.
China's kicking up. You wouldn't necessarily fancy going swimming in it.
You wouldn't fancy it, but it's probably fine. We do have a bit of a, you know. There's something about it. It scares us, doesn't it? Understandably.
Well, yeah. Look, on that note, we've got to leave it, I'm afraid. Cindy, Fraser Myers, it's been good to see you both this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
Now, here's a lovely one for you.
Oh, yes.
Amateur monster hunters are teaming up with scientific explorers on the banks of Loch Ness, as the biggest search for Nessie since 1972 is going to get underway this weekend.
Yes, now, her legendary status can be traced back to the 6th century, apparently, and today the creature is worth more than £40 million a year to the Scottish economy.
Yeah, that's not surprising, really, is it? Let's speak to the General Manager of the Loch Ness Centre, Paul Nixon. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning to you.
What a lovely job you've got, looking for Nessie. This is going to be a very deeply scientific mission, though, isn't it?
There is, yes. We've got a very serious side to our quest this morning. So we've got some hydrophones which will be going into Loch Ness in about an hour's time. They're going to be dropped down to a depth of about 60 feet. So we're listening to those underwater noises. Maybe we'll hear Nessie for the first time this morning.
Yes, I mean, I know you've used hydrophones before, probably back in the 1972 mission, but I guess that the technology is much more sophisticated now and should be able to see and hear further.
Yes, that's quite right. This is a state-of-the-art hydrophone. As well as that, we're hopefully going to fly some drones later on today. We flew some drones last night with some thermal imaging cameras on them. And of course, our team of 100+ volunteers around the banks of Loch Ness will all hopefully have their state-of-the-art mobile phones with them, able to capture higher definition photographs than ever before.
So, what do you actually think Nessie is?
Well, I really have no idea what Nessie is. It's a big something, because we know there are big objects in Loch Ness. And I think, you know, one of the sonar scans from 2020 showed something the size of a transit van. And I always said, well, it could have been a transit van. Well, yes, it could, but it wasn't there when we went back, and it's still not showing up on the banks of Loch Ness. So there is a big something in there.
You're convinced, obviously. I suppose you have to be. Yeah, you're convinced. But we've looked before, never found anything. I mean, surely, just when it comes down to just probabilities, by now, if she existed, someone would have seen her and have the evidence for it.
Well, you'd say that, but then, you know, scientists have told us giant squids have been extinct, and then lo and behold, what have we caught? A giant squid swimming around the bottom of the sea. So Loch Ness is huge. It's 23 miles long. So there's lots of space for any sort of creature down there to hide. If in fact it's a creature, who knows?
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating, and I have to say, I'm one of those people that desperately wants her to be there, because it's just part of the beautiful mystique of the loch, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, everyone, when they're driving up and down the banks of Loch Ness, look at the water in a very different way to any other body of water. If you're driving along the banks of Lake Garda or Lake Como or Lake Windermere even, everyone thinks they're going to be the next big Nessie spotter, and they've always got half an eye on the water.
Well, that's right. I mean, we were talking about what it actually means to the Scottish travel industry, or home industry, and it really is very important to keep the legend alive and to ever so often, I suppose, keep looking for her.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And being at the Loch Ness Centre, we're expecting a busy weekend full of Nessie hunters this weekend.
What on earth are you doing in Edinburgh? I've got to ask.
I'm not in Edinburgh. I'm back in Drumnadrochit now. We've just done our live to the volunteers. So we've got about 30 press down there, filmed our live going out to all the volunteers. So their hunt starts at 9 o'clock this morning.
Oh, right. Oh, I'm glad to hear. We thought you were in Edinburgh. I'm glad to hear you're back home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Drumnadrochit. What a fabulous name.
Keep your eyes peeled is what I'm dying, as Stephen said, absolutely dying to hear good news.
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't it be fun?
I tell you what, because that would lead the news across the globe.
Across the world. It really would.
Brilliant stuff. Really good to see you this morning. Good luck.
Keep up the good work, and love the jacket. Love the jacket. Bright yellow jacket.
Wouldn't that just be something?
It would, but how could it possibly be?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, it couldn't be the same animal. It'd been there for centuries.
Well, no, there must be several of them
well,
breeding.
all right, breeding, and we've never seen them.
Well, people claim they've seen bits and bobs, don't they?
No, they just never happened to have a camera with them at the time.
Oh, it's a bit blurred. Or...
Except for that very famous photograph.
The very famous one, which I still
Which has
think...
never been disproven.
No, I think it could really be the real thing. But anyway, we shall find out. Shall we have a look at the weather for you? Here's Alex.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, I'm Alex Deakin. This is your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. For many, it's a bank holiday, which usually means a fairly mixed picture. There'll be some sunshine, there will be some heavy showers around. Certainly today, the shower clouds will be developing in the next few hours. Many starting the day fine and sunny, but I say the showers bubbling up, some heavy ones this afternoon, the chance of a rumble of thunder in places as well. Perhaps not many showers through central Scotland, bit of shelter here, may see longer spells of sunshine. And as I said, elsewhere it will rain all day. There'll be some sunny spells, but you will have to dodge those downpours, and it's never going to be particularly warm, particularly with a brisk breeze across the west coast of Scotland. Through this evening, still quite a few heavy showers around, so if you've got plans, bear that in mind. The showers will tend to fade through the second half of the night, so we'll always keep some wet weather across West and North Wales and further showers in northern Scotland. But elsewhere, turning largely dry and clear. Temperatures will dip down into single figures in rural spots, so a fresh start to Sunday. Again, tomorrow, many places will start dry. Good chance you'll wake up to some blue sky, and for many, it'll stay fine through the morning. But the clouds will be bubbling up across central and then eastern parts with some showers developing. A bit dry maybe for western parts of Scotland. Wales not looking too bad through the afternoon before more cloud and rain spill into the northwest later on. And again, on the cool side for most temperatures below average for the time of year.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Well, we've got loads more to come. We'll bring you any updates on Nessie, should we find her in the next hour.
Yes, if there's instant news, we'll definitely bring it to you.
We definitely will. Stay with us. Oh, we've got 30 seconds left to fill.
It looks as though it's going to be a pretty dismal day for Nessie hunters, but I guess they won't care about the water coming down from there. They'll just be looking
so long as it doesn't affect
surface.
the hydrophone.
The hydrophone goes under the water?
Under the water, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I see. It might be noisy.
Like the water droplets, but they should still be able to sort something out. I just think it's brilliant. Can you imagine?
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Weeknights on GB News from 6 p.m. You'll always get drama.
Please stop, Michelle.
I know, yeah.
Please stop.
Should I just shut up?
Romance.
You like me, I like you. There you go.
There you are. Well, don't tell anybody.
Adventure.
Etc.
That's the whole point. But
and action.
Sergeant Reed, my superstar panel, they're already at it. They're fighting. It's going to be quite a show.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often there will be difficult stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning, 9 o'clock, Saturday the 26th of August. Today, they're kissed off. Spanish footballers, men and women, refusing to play until their FA boss resigns over that controversial World Cup kiss.
RMT members have walked out once again, leaving many of us unable to travel by train during a busy bank holiday weekend.
The biggest search for the Loch Ness monster in 50 years, more than 50 years, takes place today. Drones taking to the skies, hydrophones deep in the water, but will we find her?
And Alex from the Met Office has your weather for you.
A cool start to a fairly cool long weekend. There'll be some sunshine, but there'll also be some heavy showers, especially today. Get your full weekend forecast with me coming up later.
Morning to you, I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ann Diamond, and this is Breakfast on GB News. Happy International Dogs Day.
Yes.
That's what it is. So we're just celebrating your dogs, actually. Thank you very much for sending in some lovely pictures. Julie says, my best advice with a new pup, and that's for Stephen, who's getting a puppy on Tuesday, is to head to a busy area like a park 2 or 3 times a week, sit on a bench and let people come and fuss your new puppy. It helps to socialise them and know that humans are nice people.
Ah, yes. Well, that's a good idea, because socialisation is important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially with a big dog.
Yeah.
On the vet bills, Clive says one of our dogs had a cruciate knee injury, cost £5,000 to fix. As an older dog, we give her glucosamine pills from a vet, which are really expensive, but over-the-counter are much cheaper. You never see a poor vet. Well, maybe not, but I tell you what, they're incredible. I really think vets are incredible people.
I know, I wouldn't do it, would you? The things they have to do.
Things you have to do.
I know.
But also, I just think, because we all respect doctors, don't we? And with vets, it's exactly the same thing, only they can't tell you what it feels like.
No.
So the work they have to do...
And they usually have a practice where they're going to a farm 1 minute and then dealing with a pet chihuahua the next, you know, and they have to deal with so many different sorts of animal. Amazing. Susan says, Stephen, as a massive cat lover, I'm sitting here in overcast Oxford, worrying about Timmy and the introduction of Rex on Tuesday. I hope Timmy will be OK.
He will be. And we've spoken to the vet.
It's something to say we've spoken to him, don't worry.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, it'll take him a week or 2 to get used to having somebody else in the house. But I think he'll be all right. And so the vet, who knows him really well, said, no, he's a very calm cat. He's a very, very loved and fussed over cat. He will be fine, as long as he's got... Because the dog will not be on the bed. And lots of people have said, oh, he'll be on the bed before you know it. No, he won't. He absolutely train him from day one. No bed, no sofa. And the reason for that is...
It's because Timmy goes on the bed.
Well, yeah, but the big issue is that the dog will be so big in 6 months that we can't have him on the bed or the sofa because we won't be able to sit down.
Yeah, and then if he still thinks he can get on it when he's big...
Yeah, then you've got a problem.
You'll have to have another bed in the bedroom.
Yeah, so from day one, he will not be allowed on any of the furniture or the bed. But Timmy will. And so it's Timmy's little areas and all the rest of it.
In families where I know where they've got a dog and a cat, the cat usually just it goes high somewhere and just looks down and...
Yeah.
You know, the cats can get away from the dog if they're bored by them and worried by them. They can just get away and then look, you know...
And he will take control. He will be the boss. The cat is the boss.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure he'll remain so.
Hierarchy.
It'll be interesting to get a diary. You'll have to give us regular bulletins.
Yeah. But no, it'll be fine. And Ridgebacks are very good with cats as long as they're introduced when they're puppies.
OK.
Apparently. Lovely temperament. So there you go. Much like me.
Have we got that picture of him yet?
Oh, I don't know.
Have we got the picture of him yet, Mr
No, we haven't.
All right,
no,
OK.
no.
All right. A bit later on, we'll try and show you a picture of the pup.
Possible.
One of the pups, yes. Well, there are 4 boy puppies.
4 boys. So we've got pictures of all the 4 boys. We don't know which she is.
And you're being psychologically appraised to make sure that you and the dog...
matched with the right one.
Yeah, exactly. That's fascinating.
So we don't get to choose, which I'm really pleased about, because I'd hate to go on Tuesday and say, here are the 4 boys, which one would you like?
Yeah. So they'll say, we think this one is the one for you.
This is Rex.
Fascinating,
Rex.
isn't it?
So that's good, actually.
It is. Brilliant.
So I'd hate to choose. Can you imagine? It'd be a nightmare.
But you wouldn't. You bring all 4 home.
You'd come away with 4.
Yeah, you would. Most people do things like that.
And the mortgage to pay for it all.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this controversial kiss now. The Spanish Women's World Cup winner, Jenny Hermoso, says in no moment did she consent to the kiss the country's Football Federation president, Luis Rubiales.
Now, this comes as the players, the men and the women, actually have announced a boycott over the controversy.
Now, Hermoso said that she was vulnerable and the victim of aggression. As the rest of the Spanish women's team reveal, they are not going to play any more games until Rubiales is removed from his position.
And adding to all the pressure on him, actually, even the Spanish government has started legal action to suspend him from his post. And the head of Spain's Women's Football Committee has quit their post as well.
Yes, so 46-year-old Mr Rubiales, as we see here in the Daily Mail, he grabbed Miss Hermoso as she walked past, and he sort of grabbed her, put a hand either side of her head and pulled her towards him and kissed her on the lips during the awards ceremony after they won, obviously, their big World Cup match.
Yeah, against the Lionesses.
Yeah.
And the Lionesses have released a statement in solidarity with their Spanish sisters. Unacceptable actions allowed to happen by sexist and patriarchal organisation, they said. Abuse is abuse. We've all seen the truth. The behaviour of those who think they are invincible must not be tolerated, and people shouldn't need convincing to take action against any form of harassment. We all stand with you.
Joining us now is football writer Harry Harris. Very good morning to you, Harry. Hi.
Good morning. Al, yes, we used to share the Daily Mirror in the days gone by, I think you might recall.
That's right. How nice to see you. OK, well, let's get back to the big kiss. Was it abuse? Was it harassment? Or are we all making a fuss out of nothing?
No, I think it's the former. And I think, really, in reality, this guy can kiss goodbye to his job. He's not going to survive under any circumstances. But I think the whole issue goes far deeper. It really underlines for me, and I should imagine most of the football fraternity, that really there is still a deep divide about what is acceptable in women's football. The lack of parity between women's football and the men's game, all the wider issues come to the fore here. It's not just about the kiss, it's about the attitude of these people. And they won't change even if he's kissing goodbye to his job. There'd be somebody else very similar taking his place. And what I'm appalled about is where is our FA? Supposed to be one time the leaders of upholding the morality of the world game. I don't see a statement from the FA condemning what happened. In fact, I was actually appalled that when the Lionesses returned from Australia, and they did very well, we all wanted them to win, of course, but there were boys and girls waiting at the airport, and the FA whisked them away behind the back door. I mean, how bad is that?
Yeah, no, that wasn't right. I know the players weren't happy about that either, were they? But with all of this, I mean, there is an argument to say, you know, certainly sometimes the male players, you see them sort of kiss when, which, you know, in a non-romantic way, when they score a goal or when they've some great victory. Isn't there an argument to say, well, this was just the same thing? The fact it happened to be a woman is implying a sort of sexual side to this that perhaps wasn't there.
No, I think it was there, and I think it was. Not in the heat on the football field. There's a famous photograph of Tony Curry kissing a player when he scored a goal on the lips. But you know, it is a distinction and a very big distinction on how the attitude is towards women and women's football. And I think that it epitomises the male version of how women's football should be treated, and that is not acceptable.
Yeah, the women actually complain that both their it's their coach, I think, they don't particularly like, because they say he's very, very controlling. And there's an attitude of misogyny in their handling, in their management. So if they did manage to get rid of this guy, for instance, over this issue, there's probably, as you say, a deeper misogyny that needs to be exorcised in the Spanish female game, maybe elsewhere too.
No, I think it's the global game. You know, it's even here in England. You know, prior to the World Cup, I argue that you know, the Lionesses were you know, underfinanced and lacking in the resources that the men's game have got. They had far too many injuries leading up to the World Cup, and I think this is indicative of how men treat the women's game. I mean, it's as simple as that. And replacing this guy, you're only going to get someone very similar, if not worse. Because I think
that's a worrying conclusion, Harry. You'd hope if they were going to replace him for this that they'd find someone who was a bit better. I mean, I have to say, and it's disturbed us all, well, here at least, looking at the crotch grab as well. When you sort of tie that in with all of this, I mean, as a man, I sort of think that was really inappropriate. What did you think of that?
Again, yeah, totally inappropriate. I mean, what kind of message was he sending out? We know what kind of message he was sending out. And I think that, you know, this guy should lose his job, but does worry me about who would come in, not just in Spain, but, you know, universally speaking, you know, the women's game is not treated in any way with parity with the men's game.
And
in
don't
any
you think...
shape or...
I was going to say, and don't you think that even showed in Nike's decision at first not to include the kit worn by our goalie?
Absolutely correct. I mean, what was the thinking behind that? I mean, it was bizarre. I mean, you know, you wouldn't do that in the England men's team, would you? Of course you wouldn't, because you know, the goalkeeper would revolt, and all his teammates would revolt as well. So, you know, it's totally unacceptable that they're taking advantage of the women's game. They can apply a pressure to the women's game. You know, they treat the women's game as you can see it, as we've just seen. And that is why it epitomises attitudes, not just in Spain, but universally towards the women's game. And it needs to be addressed. So where is our FA addressing it? Where is their statement of condemnation? I don't see it. And what are they trying to do to address the impartiality, the inequality that exists not just in women's football, but throughout football?
Yeah, well, look, but that's almost the point, isn't it? There's no point the FA coming out and just sort of condemning this action. They've actually got to come out with some positive plan over the wider issues that you raise.
Exactly right. And they don't have a plan, and that's why the government have got involved drawing up a white paper to enforce a plan on football that is devoid of proper leadership. I would say leadership is probably the wrong word. Devoid of a vision for the global game, for the game in our country, and the game throughout Europe. It's devoid of a vision of how to protect the lower reaches of football, and how to protect our women's game. It just does not have that vision. It really requires different type of people to lead our sport.
I suppose when you look at the history of some sports, I'm thinking of women's tennis, for instance. Again, I think you go back to Billie Jean King's day, when she was Billie Jean Moffat and trying to make her name and everything, and being a wonderful champion and succeeding so well. Still, she was up against the misogyny of the men who ran tennis. And it took a long time to make that point clear, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it took a long time to ban cigarettes from sport, and it's taken a long time to ban gambling from sport. It takes a long time to get this message across. That's one of the appalling things about it. But the message will eventually, it will get across. The penny will eventually drop and someone will do something about it. But it will take a long time.
OK. Harry, good to see you this morning.
Yeah.
Thanks very much indeed. Interesting wider points on that, I think. On the kiss itself, John's been in touch and says, this story has made me feel very uncomfortable. When my wife's friends come to our house, I always greet them with a kiss on the lips. Is this inappropriate?
Yes.
I think it probably is,
I think
John.
it is, yeah.
I think, because clearly you're not meaning anything by it, but are they feeling uncomfortable with that? I should think they probably do.
Once upon a time, once upon a time, it was appropriate for. It wasn't. No, it was never appropriate. It was sort of accepted that men could be deeply patronising towards women in that sort of way, patting them on the bum, things like that. It's not appropriate anymore. We have really grown past that. So no, John, don't do it anymore, please.
No, it don't. Doesn't seem right, John. No, if I was accompanying my mother to your house and you did that, I'd be having words, I think. I mean, that's, and I'm not saying that you mean anything by it, but it just doesn't seem right. Philip says, would the Spanish manager have kissed a man in the same way? If not, then it's not appropriate to kiss a woman the same way.
Well, he shouldn't be forcing himself on anyone, and he was forcing it.
Yeah.
She didn't have any choice. He just grabbed her, and that's what's completely inappropriate. But as I've said before, and I would say again, you can tell what sort of a man he was by the crotch grab. That was so inappropriate, so unprofessional, and on a world stage too.
Yeah,
not on.
Can't argue that's not somehow sexual.
He's a slob. That's what he is.
Well,
grow up.
Too much testosterone flying about there. That sort of thing. Very odd. Just to change tack completely, yes, because I think it might be nice.
Yeah.
We're talking about public toilets. Loads of you getting in touch on public
toilets.
Right? Norma in Kent. Hi, Norma. Said, on a girly holiday with my sister in Rome, she was desperate for the loo after hours of walking. You walk for miles in Rome. Dived into the nearest underground station with a cry of relief. She rushed into the first loo we saw. But then we had to cry with laughter as the automatic door continued to open and close.
Oh, no.
And she was on full view to all the passing public.
No.
One of our everlasting memories of Rome.
That's what you think of when you remember Rome. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
How mortifying.
But you still need them, but you need them to be clean and working well, don't you?
Yes.
We had a lovely message from somebody who said that she went into one of those loos with her shopping, and then came out, and then it went into flush mode. It went into cleaning mode.
This is Jean.
She said, we were living in France and sitting at a cafe in Bergerac. A lady went into an auto-clean loo, came out, and then the door closed for cleaning. And then she screamed, realising she'd left all her shopping bags inside. They were a little wet.
Oh.
You've got to exit and enter these places with care.
Oh, you do.
But you need them, and you need clean ones. But actually, we've had so much response from you, thank you very much,
Loads.
About loos all over the country and about how proud you are of some of them. Leeds, no, it wasn't Leeds. Yes, no, can't remember.
There's Bridlington in East Yorkshire. David says, plentiful, clean and free in Bridlington. It should be the standard for all seaside resorts. Bravo.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's Leeds I'm looking for, but there are. Find it.
Andy in Dorset says in Pool Town Centre the toilets were removed because they were a magnet for drug users. They do need to be properly maintained.
Yeah.
That's where the expense comes in. People going around checking them, several times a day or whatever. Glenn says, bring back the old-fashioned penny in the slot. He says 5 or 10p today. That should help towards maintenance and it won't cost the average person much.
Well, quite a lot of people...
a pound, though. They'd want a pound. I bet they would.
Yes. And apparently a lot of them are contactless now as well.
Oh, really? Contactless toilets?
Yeah. They're all over here.
Oh, right.
No, I mean the payment method is contactless.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes.
OK.
There you go.
Enough.
Yes, there you go. Just a quick one. Sean, Withensea, we have multiple public toilets and disability access toilets as well. Changing places, I think they're called. The big disability ones, so adults who need to be put in a hoist and things.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. They're expensive, but we need more of those. So the people with disabilities who need assistance with toileting.
I think generally you don't mind the expense too much as long as what you get is, good value.
Yeah.
Nice and clean and well maintained.
See, I didn't care in my younger days, but now that I'm hurtling towards 50, I'm finding it a little bit more important. So there you go. That's more information than you needed. Should we talk about trains? Because rail workers across England have walked out again today as part of the long-running dispute over pay. More strikes as well planned for next weekend.
Yeah, so thousands travelling to events and festivals today are going to be effective. Only around half the usual train services are going to run, and they will finish much earlier than usual, so check.
Well, earlier we had a talk to travel guru Simon Calder, and he started with a look back at what is now a very long-running dispute.
Basically, the rail unions, the RMT, who are going on strike today, and ASLEF, the train drivers union, are on strike on next Friday, the 1st of September. They say, we worked all the way through COVID. We haven't had a proper pay increase. We want a decent pay rise that takes into account the racing inflation. And furthermore, then we will talk about possibly reforming some of our working practices, but that's going to cost you. You're going to give us an extra percentage for each thing we negotiate away. The train companies, meanwhile, and the government, who ultimately are going to sign off any pay deal, say, you're joking. Rail revenue has collapsed since the COVID pandemic, basically because people aren't commuting in from Winchester and Woking to Waterloo at the same way that they were. We've lost all that season ticket revenue. The only way you can even get a modest pay rise is if you agree to some reforms, which the rail unions see as cuts, and the government and train operators say are very necessary to cut the cost of running the railway. But caught in the middle of this great long route, of course, the passenger. And today, if you're travelling by rail in England, and remember that Transport for Wales and ScotRail are not affected, then it's going to be a messy old day again. But actually, when you say half the trains are running, the train operators say it's slightly more than that. And it's kind of evidence, and that they are looking to have a kind of war of attrition, whereby the eventually all the rail workers, having lost thousands of pounds going on strike and not apparently achieving anything, will return to work. Meanwhile, Mick Lynch, General Secretary of the RMT union, says, no, we are solid and we will strike for as long as it takes to win this dispute.
I mean, away from what is happening for passengers today, because they're almost two separate issues in a way. I mean, it's because whether the trains are running or not, people will avoid them, I guess, on a strike day. But in terms of what the RMT is trying to achieve, and there's been all this hoo-ha over inflation, obviously, and understandably, inflation's coming down. Does that not weaken their argument?
Well, they would point out, and I think there is some justification to this, that, look, we simply want to be able to buy what we could buy in 2019. That's the line from Mick Whelan, who's the General Secretary of the Train Drivers Union. They're in a rather different category. The government says, look, you can have a pay rise, which is going to take the average wage for a 4-day week without overtime from £60,000 to £65,000 a year. So, yeah, they say we just want inflation recognised. The government's offering basically 4% for last year, 4% for this year, contingent on accepting those changes. But for RMT members who are more poorly paid, they say the increase can be anything up to 13%. And they're also saying, look, for goodness sake, RMT, put this to a vote of your members rather than just the National Executive Committee sitting around having a look at it and saying, that's no good. We're going to go on strike again. And meanwhile, of course, and I think you were implying this, Stephen, it's so corrosive for confidence in the railways just at the time when you need to be able to plan journeys. For instance, I've got an important trip, London to Bristol, 3 weeks' time. I've bought a coach ticket, very good value, and I know it's going to run.
And you can have a nice sleep on a coach, long coach journey as well. That's our travel guru, Simon Calder, there with that update for you. Should we cross to Birmingham now? Let's go to our West Midlands reporter, Jack Carson, find out what's happening or not happening there. Over to you, Jack.
Yeah, good morning to you both. Here at Birmingham New Street and very much across the country, really limited services today. Here at New Street. There's about 1 train per hour for a majority of the services. There's been quite a few people running in this morning, knowing if they don't catch the train that they need, they're going to have to wait a bit longer than they usually would to catch the next one. Today, 20,000 RMT union members go on strike. It's the 24th strike that they've taken in this long-running dispute over pay and also working conditions as well, of course. So when it comes to negotiating those deals with the train operating companies, it does get a little bit more complex, a little bit more difficult, because each of them have their own specific conditions over pay, overtime, working conditions, things like that. So that's where the deals may become a little bit more complex than just accepting a specific pay offer. But of course, back in March, in spring, we all thought we might well see an end to the strikes because the rail delivery groups offered to the Network Rail members of the RMT. That was accepted. That was a 5% backdated pay rise for 2022 and 4% for 2023. It was 8% across 2 years for the 14 different train operating companies and the members from the RMT that work for them. But of course, the RMT have not put that to a vote, and it means today, on a bank holiday weekend with Notting Hill Carnival, with Reading and Leeds festivals, there's going to be a mass disruption on the railways. And of course, the unions are also angered over this issue with the plans to possibly cut and close ticket offices across the country. 460,000 people have already taken part in that public consultation, which ends on the 1st of September. And so it's not only that the RMT, of course, are angry over, it's this long-running dispute as well, and these strikes look set to continue for some time.
Jack, thank you very much indeed. Catch up with you a little bit later on. It's International Dog Day.
It is.
It is International Dog Day. Let's show you this, which is, I've finally managed to get it full screen for you.
Can't see him yet.
There you go.
Oh, take out the strap.
So
is that going to probably be your hooch?
Yes, or at least him or one of his brothers. We don't know which one. They all look pretty much identical. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
And actually, you can tell by the human hand that's just in there how small he is at the moment.
Won't last long.
No, it won't.
He'll be a big boy.
Because you can see by the paws, in another photograph, we were looking at the size of his paws, and they are huge. He's going to be a very big dog. I wonder how long it will take for him to grow to full size.
Not long.
Really?
No, they shoot up. Mind you, if you like a smaller dog, have a look at this. Look at that. Now, that is Casper, and he is Kevin and Jeannie Woodford's dog. Kevin Woodford, TV chef, celebrity chef, and his wife, Jeannie. That is their little baby, who they absolutely adore. I tell you, that dog is spoiled.
Yes, I'll bet, and so will yours be.
But
Casper's a lovely name too.
But isn't he?
I like the way he's just sort of meditating there as well.
I don't know what he is.
He is, yes. He's now I do know what he is.
Like a bit sort of bulldoggy in a way.
Yeah, he's a miniature something.
Miniature something or other. But he's an absolute. And I tell you, that dog is adored.
Yeah. That's lovely.
I'll tell you that.
Happy International Dogs Day.
Yes.
If you've got one, I hope you're enjoying today.
And morning, Kevin and Jeannie, who are watching now. Kevin's just sent me that to remind me to...
Yeah. That picture was probably taken on a nice sunny June day. It's a long time since we've seen the sun. Should we catch up with the weather?
A brighter outlook with Boxed Solar. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, I'm Alex Deakin. This is your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. For many, it's a bank holiday, which usually means a fairly mixed picture. There'll be some sunshine, there will be some heavy showers around. Certainly today, the shower clouds will be developing in the next few hours. Many starting the day fine and sunny, but I say the showers bubbling up, some heavy ones this afternoon, the chance of a rumble of thunder in places as well. Perhaps not many showers through central Scotland, bit of shelter here, may see longer spells of sunshine. And as I said, elsewhere it will rain all day. There'll be some sunny spells, but you will have to dodge those downpours, and it's never going to be particularly warm, particularly with a brisk breeze across the west coast of Scotland. Through this evening, still quite a few heavy showers around, so if you've got plans, bear that in mind. The showers will tend to fade through the second half of the night, so we'll always keep some wet weather across West and North Wales and further showers in northern Scotland. But elsewhere, turning largely dry and clear. Temperatures will dip down into single figures in rural spots, so a fresh start to Sunday. Again, tomorrow, many places will start dry. Good chance you'll wake up to some blue sky, and for many, it'll stay fine through the morning, but the clouds will will be bubbling up across central and then eastern parts with some showers developing. A bit dry maybe for western parts of Scotland. Wales not looking too bad through the afternoon before more cloud and rain spill into the northwest later on. And again, on the cool side for most temperatures below average for the time of year.
A brighter outlook with Boxed Solar. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Tell you, the kiss has divided you.
Very much so.
Gwen says the kiss was quite obviously sexual assault. I'm disgusted he wasn't charged with that and sacked. Margaret says, storm in a teacup.
Steve says, never had a kiss on the lips from a total stranger in the street on Hogmanay. The crotch grab was a bit stupid from a man in his position.
Matt says, it's definitely not on what he did, but if roles were reversed, nobody'd be making a big deal of it.
Yeah, but the roles weren't reversed. They were this way round. This was women's football. They'd just won the World Cup. They deserved a bit more respect and dignity than that.
And Sandra says it's not just the kiss, it's the way he pats and slaps her on the back and bottom.
Too much.
Well, I hadn't seen that, to be fair. I wasn't aware of that, but no, again, that's... So anyway, you split on that, but, you know...
Oh, that's what we're here for.
It is indeed.
Hear your views.
You better hadn't be split on this one, though. The Loch Ness Monster. Because, of course, she's there somewhere.
Oh, she's there somewhere.
Don't have any
Very
doubters.
elusive, though.
Don't want the doubters. Anyway, they're searching for her full on today. We'll get the latest from our Scottish reporter, who has apparently found some clues. Don't go anywhere.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com? You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
is the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
9:34. Good morning to you. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
Now, a Devon seaside town called Dawlish has been named as the best place for a staycation in the UK.
Yes, it's got its own beach, the Dawlish Warren Nature Reserve and the South West Coast Path. So apparently there's something for everyone.
Sounds nice, doesn't it? Joining us now then from Dawlish is our South West of England reporter, Jeff Moody. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, there's certainly something for everyone here in Dawlish. Well, it's the bank holiday weekend, and according to TripAdvisor, 80% of us are planning to go away this weekend. 80% are now on the roads heading down for a weekend. And according to Visit Britain, 4 million of us are coming to the West Country. Now, that's much more than usual, so we are expecting a bumper bank holiday weekend. And the resort that's been voted the most popular for this bank holiday weekend is here in Dawlish, and it's very easy to see why. The sun is shining, it's a beautiful coastline here, there are dog walkers along the beach, and there's plenty of Regency and Victorian shops and architecture to be seen. There's also all of the arcades and cafes and things, certainly a vibrant atmosphere. And boy, do they need it. It's been a very bad summer for tourism. Tourism has been down considerably. Staycations have been down considerably after a bumpy couple of years with COVID and with lockdowns. We really needed 2023 to be a lot better than that to help sustain the tourist industry. It's been a particular worry in terms of what people do when they do go away. People might be coming away for the weekend, but their spend is considerably down on normal. We're finding that a lot of people aren't eating out in fancy restaurants. They're not going on day trips. Day trips are really suffering. I mean, you can get a day trip here out to sea, trips round the bay, but there's one taking off very shortly, but there's nobody queuing as yet, which kind of proves the point that people might be coming away, but they're not doing what they usually do when they're on holiday. And they're also booking very last minute compared to normal. Normally at this time of year, people would have booked far in advance, but people are really booking at the last minute because A, they're looking at the weather, and it has been pretty atrocious to go away, and B, they're looking at the train strikes. And of course there's another train strike today. The RMT is on strike, as we've just been hearing from Jack in Birmingham. And down here, when there's a train strike, it really means that parts of the West Country are completely cut off. There are no trains at all from Exeter to London Waterloo, so it's very difficult for people to get down here in the first place unless they go by car, and of course the roads get snarled. So it is welcome news that so many people are coming out, and it's welcome news that so many people are coming here to Dawlish, but really for the tourism industry it's a little bit too little too late. They really needed to see a lot more people through the whole of July and August. What will be crucial for tourists is September. That's known as the shoulder month. You need a good September and October in order to keep the coffers rolling in throughout the winter months. And that is the problem. Bookings in September and October are still considerably lower. People are still waiting to see what the weather's doing. And the bad news is the Met Office has said, well, we're not going to see an Indian summer. We were really hoping for another heat wave. It's not going to happen. The weather, according to the Met Office, it's going to go downhill and slide miserably into autumn.
Oh, how cheery. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Jeff, you can do your bit for the local economy. Can you talk about the nice shops? I've found there's Black Swan Gifts, Presents of Dawlish, or 10 Green Bottles. 2 of those are on the Strand. Get up there, buy us a little souvenir each and send it on. Do your bit for the local economy.
Good idea.
I will. So
or get yourself on one of those boat trips.
No, anything nice and chintzy.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Something Dawlishy.
Yeah.
Anything nice and chintzy.
Yeah.
Dawlishy, no problem.
Lovely stuff, Jeff. Thank you. Get the most of him while he's there.
Holidays. Just makes you feel like going away, doesn't it, somewhere?
Well, I'll tell you what, I love a seaside town, though.
Oh, well, I do, but I want some sunshine with it.
You do want a bit of sunshine. Looks all right down there. I'm just looking at 10 green bottles. I think you can send Jeff there.
It's the
Very nice.
Bournemouth Air Festival on this weekend.
Oh, is it?
Over the whole weekend, yeah. And looking up to see the aeroplanes, not very easy if it's going to be cloudy, dismal and rainy. I'm so sorry, yeah.
You used to work in Bournemouth, didn't you?
Yeah, I worked on the Bournemouth Echo.
There you go. I don't know where I've dragged that up from, but there you go. I remember all sorts of useless stuff, you know. Now, amateur monster hunters, let's just say monster hunters, are teaming up with scientific explorers on Loch Ness today. It's the biggest search for Nessie since 1972.
Yeah, her legendary status can actually be traced back to the 6th century. And today, the mythical creature is worth more than £40 million to the Scottish economy. So well, she's a very important lady.
She certainly is. Well, our Scotland reporter, Tony Maguire, has been to the Loch Ness Centre in Drumnadrochit to try to catch a glimpse of this famously camera-shy celebrity.
This weekend, Nessie enthusiasts from far and wide descend on the Scottish Highlands in the largest search for the Loch Ness Monster undertaken in 50 years. Nessie is the global superstar of Scots mythology, a 1,500-year-old legend given new life in 1933 after a fateful sighting by Aldi Mackay, former manageress of the Drumnadrochit Hotel. 90 years later, that hotel is now home to the Loch Ness Centre, a base camp to this weekend's quest, and a time capsule preserving a century of Loch Ness exploration. Marketing executive Amy Todd talks up this exciting new chapter in the hunt for Nessie.
The Quest weekend is a massive big deal because we've got the Quest that's happening, which is the biggest surface wash for the Loch in over 50 years. The Nessie Hunter cruises that are going out with Ali and Alan and a member from the original Loch Ness Investigation Bureau. We're going to sort of uncover the secrets of Loch Ness.
The centre is supporting the Quest weekend, organised by Loch Ness exploration lead Alan McKenna. Hydrophones will be lowered into the murky depths to sense acoustic signals from Nessie, and drones will capture thermal imagery on infrared cameras from the air. Monster hunters from around the world can join in too, monitoring the loch from a series of cameras on the Visit Inverness Loch Ness website. But the best search experience will be on the water. And down at the dock, skipper Ali Matheson is at the ready to welcome aboard Nessie hunters prepared to take their curiosity and sense of adventure out onto the loch.
I guess my job entails monster hunting full time. So we're out here all day, every day through summer. So I suppose in a passive kind of way we could say we're monster hunting. I haven't really actively been out hunting monsters in the past. So this will be something quite new for me.
After 90 years of search and exploration, we're still no closer to finding that vital piece of evidence that proves the existence of the Loch Ness Monster. In fact, many would tell you that the lack of evidence disproves Nessie's existence altogether. But her global fame shows we're willing to propagate her legend from these very shores because the will to believe, or at least play along, is greater than the need to prove the unknown. Tony Maguire, GB News.
Can't take your eyes off the water, you see, can you?
Love it.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd just be brilliant.
But it is an enormous loch, isn't it? And incredibly deep. I mean, that's one of the reasons they think that there could be something there, because it is incredibly deep. But, well, who knows? The technology is better now than it was in 1972. And they've got drones, and that'll be interesting because they'll be able to keep drones doing a pattern over the water.
They'll find her eventually.
They've got to find it, haven't they?
Yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Yes.
Anyway, look, we've got all the sport and showbiz heading away in just a moment. This is GB News.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Weeknights on GB News from 6 p.m. You'll always get drama.
Please stop, Michelle.
I know, yeah.
Please stop.
Should I just shut up?
Romance.
You like me, I like you. There you go.
There you are. Well, don't tell anybody.
Adventure.
Etc.
That's the whole point.
And action.
Sergeant Green, my superstar panel that are already at it. They're fighting. It's going to be quite a show.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard.
We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often there will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
7:46 morning to you. Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
Yeah. Right, well, we've had plenty to talk about from the world of showbiz and from the world of sport today, which is why we are joined now by our worlds of showbiz and sport. Stephanie and Aidan, of course, are here with us. I want to ask you about the kiss. Let's start with you, Stephanie, because I mean, we've been talking about it all morning, and the papers are full of it, and it is going to rumble on for a bit, I think. But a lot of people have been getting in touch saying, "Storm in a teacup." Honestly, it was only a kiss. What do you think?
No, I don't think it was a kiss, like just simple kiss, because he wouldn't have done that if that was a male football player. I think because she's female, and all eyes was on female football that day, and I think to take away from that by the move he did, I thought was quite disrespectful. I don't think he done it out of maliciously, but he must know that the cameras are watching, and it takes away from the success that they had. And it's breaking someone's boundaries as well.
Well,
I don't want anyone just coming up to me and kissing me on the lips, especially after I've just won the World Cup.
Exactly.
So
You can't quite... What do you think, Aidan?
Well, there's a backdrop to this. I mean, not many people realise that Spain won the World Cup without 7 senior players, people who would have started. It was an extraordinary achievement to do it without those players. And the reason it didn't happen that way is because last December, 15 players objected to the way the organisation was being run. Misogyny was included in that. 15 players objected. 8 of them agreed that they would retake their place in the squad. 7 didn't. So there's a backdrop to this. It hasn't just happened overnight. And so it's not a good look for the president to do this at all. It didn't. I noticed it straight away. I felt uncomfortable with it. Having said that, I think in all cases, you have to look at the way a court would look at it. What's the intent? What was his intent? Was he trying to make a show? Possibly. Was he trying to embarrass anyone? I don't think so.
Well, no, but he's
No,
not
it's
trying
not
to
just
embarrass
intent.
anyone. But in a way, if it's taking advantage, she didn't want. She's made it clear she didn't want to be kissed like that.
And doesn't it also show that he thinks that behaviour
is acceptable,
which means that he probably goes on after. Give us a bit more on this background then, because I understand from what I've read as well, they really don't like their coach.
No, well, the original objections happened last autumn when they said, and don't forget this is a squad who was primed to win the World Cup. This isn't just these aren't just also-rans. And they were objecting against the way it was run. They felt that they weren't given the decent hotels. They were travelling on minibuses and things like that. And this is like an elite side in women's football. We've seen the growth of the game. And it just, for all the world, looked as if they weren't taking it seriously, the Spanish FA. And these are players who are delivering. They got to the quarter-finals of the World Cup, of the Euros last time, beaten by England. They got to the final this time, and they were palpably better than England on the day last Sunday. And so 15 players objected. They wrote a letter of objection to the Spanish FA. 7 agreed to come back into the squad if things changed. This is evidence, it would seem, although I'm questioning whether the intent was actually malicious, this is evidence that things haven't really moved forward.
Because, Stephanie, I read that their coach is so controlling, and this is the word that's used, that apparently when they do stay in hotels, he demands that they leave their room doors open so he can see whether or not lights are out and that they are actually asleep.
They're not kids.
And when they go shopping, he demands to have a look through what they've bought.
No, come on, they're not slaves.
It's endemic among other squads as well. Nigeria have had a serious problem with this. Yeah, the coach has been demanding to sleep with players and things like that over the years. Players have spoken about this.
That's the problem when women do men's jobs. They tend to be always sexualised, and this is why women always talk about equality, because even if you are doing a man's job, it seems like, you know, if you saw a female builder, she will probably get whistled at. She won't be given that respect that she needs, and that's what's clearly happening to these footballers.
So it looks as though this is the last straw.
Yeah, and it's just overshadowing an extraordinary achievement. As I said, not many people will know that they did this without some key first-team players.
Yeah.
And they beat England, who were the European champions last
There's an ongoing programme, and he just showed off what probably part of the problem.
Well, the crotch grabbing as well.
Goodness me.
When did the crotch grabbing
that was when they won.
It was when they won. He's about 3 people away from the Queen of Spain, and he did the full crotch grab, and it looked horrible.
How does he still have his position?
Yes.
He'll have to go.
He needs to step down.
He will have to go.
Yeah, he will. There's no question about that.
But the thing is, kissing means different things in different cultures as well. Some cultures is very kiss-heavy, and they'll kiss you on the lips if they meet you for the first time. And other cultures, like the Germans, they're very strict about their personal space. You don't really get too in their face. So I don't know, maybe is it a Spanish thing?
Is it a cultural thing? I don't think so.
Still, when the world is watching.
About 100 million people were watching this globally. It does not reflect well on Spain, especially as the royal family were there in attendance as well, which is more than we got from our royal family, of course, on the day.
So what about...
now, let's not get all into that.
What about UEFA? Why haven't they said something?
They will do in the fullness of time. It's actually a FIFA competition, so it'll be a FIFA are the world governing body, or sort of governing body for Europe. The world governing body is FIFA. So FIFA are always slow to react on this. They will take a few days and then they'll make a statement.
Well, it's a sensitive one.
They will put pressure, I imagine, for Spain to take action, and he will be he'll be quite rightly sacrificed, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, look, can we have a look at Liam Payne?
Yeah.
Once of One Direction.
Yeah, Liam Payne hasn't been in a good place over the past few months. He, only a few months ago, just came out of rehab for an addiction to alcohol, which he's been very open about. But yesterday he put up a social media post saying he's having to cancel his tour in South America, which was due to start on September 1st, due to having a kidney infection. So
this really is the last news.
Here's the video.
Basically, I've been a little bit unwell recently, and I ended up in hospital with a bad kidney infection. We started rehearsals, and I've just been advised that now's really not the right time to be out on the road trying to recover from this. I've got the best people around me at home trying to help me recover as we speak. But yeah, we're going to have to reschedule the tour. Please look out for ways to refund your tickets. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys soon. Hopefully we'll put on an even bigger, better show. Thank you.
He looks a wreck, actually. I can't help but look at that and think One Direction was possibly the worst thing that ever happened to him.
I think so. For him and Zayn Malik, like, both of them, they've kind of gone off the rails a bit. The only person who I think's really done well out of One Direction is Harry Styles. Liam Payne doesn't even look like he's about to turn 30 there. He looks, I hate to say, oh no, he's had a kidney infection, but he looks pretty washed up.
Really I interviewed him 3 years ago. Nice fella.
Yeah, I've interviewed him before,
Very knowledgeable. I interviewed him talking about football. Very knowledgeable, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think if you're recovering from alcohol, I can imagine that is a long road to recovery.
Yes, I was going to say it takes longer than just a few weeks, doesn't it?
Yeah, so to be preparing for a tour, I don't think that was the right decision.
Oh, what a shame. Honestly, fame and fortune is a nightmare for some people.
It is, especially when you have it at a young age.
Yes,
I think child stars, you always see by the time they get to their 30s and 40s, they've kind of become a bit disillusioned with it all.
Yeah.
Like
Well, it's all they've ever known as well. If they're child stars, it's all they've ever known.
Yeah.
And so they find it difficult to cope with it, and they lose their... I mean, inhibitions go as well.
Yeah.
And also, sometimes the fame can drop off.
Yes.
And so that plays with the mind, because they've always been told they're great, and they've always been told they're on top of their game. And I don't know, I think it's mentally it doesn't do anything for them at all.
No, I think you're right. Well, I hope he gets sorted out. Poor lad. He's only a youngster. OK, Stephanie, Aidan, thank you very much indeed. It's been a lot of fun. That is it from us. We're back tomorrow morning at 6, of course. But Esther and Phil are here next with Saturday Morning Live. That's after your weather.
Have a great day.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, I'm Alex Deakin. This is your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. For many, it's a bank holiday, which usually means a fairly mixed picture. There'll be some sunshine, there will be some heavy showers around. Certainly today, the shower clouds will be developing in the next few hours. Many starting the day fine and sunny, but say the showers bubbling up, some heavy ones this afternoon, the chance of a rumble of thunder in places as well. Perhaps not many showers through central Scotland, bit of shelter here, may see longer spells of sunshine. And as I said, elsewhere it won't rain all day. There'll be some sunny spells, but you will have to dodge those downpours, and it's never going to be particularly warm, particularly with a brisk breeze across the west coast of Scotland. Through this evening, still quite a few heavy showers around, so if you've got plans, bear that in mind. The showers will tend to fade through the second half of the night, so we'll always keep some wet weather across West and North Wales and further showers in northern Scotland. But elsewhere, turning largely dry and clear. Temperatures will dip down into single figures in rural spots, so a fresh start to Sunday. Again, tomorrow, many places will start dry. Good chance you'll wake up to some blue sky, and for many, it'll stay fine through the morning. But the clouds will be bubbling up across central and then eastern parts with some showers developing. A bit dry maybe for western parts of Scotland. Wales not looking too bad through the afternoon before more cloud and rain spill into the northwest later on. And again, on the cool side for most temperatures below average for the time of year.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the